after stalling for a few minutes live, we are here to read the glorious finale of LOTM. This is our third to last video. I am so confident saying third to last. We're going to read until chapter 72 today, brothers and sisters. That way, next weekend, the last 30 chapters are back to back. So it's like, what, 12 to 14 Saturday and 12 to 14 Sunday. So I hope you guys are ready. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life once I'm done with LOTM. I'm kind of sad. I'm sad. It's starting to hit. But we just got to get right into it, bro. You guys ready? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm pumped. I'm pumped. You know what? I haven't even read the author notes. I assume this volume is called The Fool. I already know it's called The Fool. There ain't no way it's not called The Fool. It ain't called Lord of the Mysteries. I know that much. He ain't going to be Lord of the Mysteries. But he's going to be The Fool. I know that much. Hopefully. Easy going to find a way to stall. 34 chapters, 34 videos. Chapter 1360 is called Choice. After Klein wrote... Ooh, okay. Choice? Choice from what? After Klein wrote down his impression of Tingen, he briefly mentioned that he had completed the ritual to become a Sequence 1 attendant of mysteries, as well as a resolve of one of his long-time traumas, the leader of the Secret Order, Zaratul. He didn't describe his predicament in detail, only seriously discussing the mental problems the angel suffered. Putting away the fountain pen and folding the paper, Klein reached out to take out a Zig's copper whistle from Sephira Castle and blew at it. Inside the cheap coffee shop, white bones spewed out like fountain, forming a huge messenger. Let me raise the volume a little bit louder. The messenger then shrank his body, becoming one height of a normal person. That's new. At the same time, it knelt down on one knee and stretched out its palm. There's no need to be afraid of me. The messenger's scared of Klein now. There's no need to be afraid of me. Upon seeing this, Klein laughed. It's not like I would do anything to you. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. No, we're not going to mess up our timestamps by undoing things on OBS. Okay. It's not like I would do anything to you. As he spoke, he picked up the letter and placed it on the skeleton messenger's hand. The messenger nodded heavily a few times. It was unknown what it was agreeing with. Then his body disintegrated, turning into bones that drilled into the ground. At this moment, the boss brought coffee, oatmeal bread, and mutton stewed with peas. As Klein enjoyed breakfast that wasn't too delicious, but was filled with a Borgia-style, cannot read this word, he looked out the window and enjoyed the morning scenery without any reason. He admired the pedestrians, carriages, trees, mist, and food machinery that made up the scene. If there was no apocalypse, it's best to be Sequence 7 and beyond, or to maintain the life intention and live rather leisurely, while being capable of handling most cases. When prepared, a magician who has many tricks up his sleeve would appear too weak when facing a Sequence 6 and Sequence 7. Sequence 5, my bad. As for Fateless and Marionettes, one can easily get lost while acting. Is that a bet? Is that a challenge, guys? Too weak when facing Sequence 6 and Sequence 5 Beyonders. As for Faceless and Marionettes, one can easily get lost while acting. It's relatively easy to lose control when one advances, making it rather dangerous. Of course, if one was a sealed Creeping Hunger, it would be perfect. Klein casually thought as he recalled Creeping Hunger, which had landed in Amon's hands. He didn't know how Amon would treat this sealed artifact, but he only felt that an item of this level was one of no value to an angel of time. After playing for a while, he would probably throw it into a secret warehouse in the darkness. I wonder if there's a chance to retrieve it. Just as this thought flashed through Klein's mind, he suddenly felt a little guilty. This was because even if he could snatch Creeping Hunger back from Amon's hands, he would throw it into the junk pile, making it wait to be bestowed to be blessed or the believers that needed it. This was no different from being in Amon's hands. Klein quickly diverted his attention. I lost the mirror again. Adam shouldn't be interested in the mirror at the saint level. Perhaps I can get it back, so there's more to erodes. No, erode seems to have been spewed out from Chaos Sea. In certain matter, it's possible that it can be a medium psi. I only hope that Adam doesn't damage it and that I have the time to retrieve it. After becoming attendant of mysteries and gaining a deeper control of Sephira Castle, Klein already possessed a certain level of authority in concealment domain. Whenever he was thinking about important matters, there would always be a thin shadow around him that no one else could see. This was equivalent 5-hour movie, surely. Better be long. Whenever he was thinking about important matters, there would always be a thin shadow around him that no one else could see. This was equivalent to the embryonic form of a divine kingdom, the realm of mysteries. Therefore, he dared to directly think of Adam's name. After sighing, Klein suddenly recalled something and hurriedly got the worms of spirit on duty in Safari Castle to graft a certain area in the spirit world he fixed when he advanced over. Immediately after, he finished the leftover mutton and the last bit of oatmeal bread that he dipped into the soup. He finished the coffee beside him. After putting on his hat and standing up, Klein took a step forward and entered the spirit world, the corresponding utopia. Then he removed the grafting and returned to the ruins of utopia. This was to use the abilities of grafting and his ability to freely enter the spirit world to indirectly achieve a teleportation effect. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could locate the corresponding regions in the spirit world. On this point, the owner of Safari Castle, Klein, had a unique advantage. As for Zaratul and the other attendant mysteries, they could only rely on their preparations. As soon as he stepped into the ruins of Utopia, Klein surveyed the area and discovered that the collapsed houses, charred corpses, were shimmering with different colors. They were the bionic characteristics inside of the monster marionettes, the wealth accumulated by Klein back in the forsaken lands of the gods. This might be useless to him, but he still has many believers and blessed that would gradually increase in numbers. As for a deity, he had to stock up some bionic characteristics in order to bestow them. Thankfully, the Lords of the Storms didn't take the opportunity to sweep them away. As Klein silently muttered to himself, he couldn't help but think Leodero, Eastchester County, inside the Hall family manor. Okay, we're switching POVs. After the sun finally rose, the suffering people returned to the rooms one after another to make up for the lack of sleep. Only Alfred Earl Hall's personal bodyguards, Decons, and Nighthawks sent by the Church of Evernight to investigate the reasons behind the incident last night remained. As Audrey used the golden retriever Susie to monitor the development of the situation, she opened her bedroom door and walked in. Through the curtains and the weak sunlight in the room, a figure sat quietly on a high stool like a large doll. It was a huge Snow White rabbit. Audrey's brows twitched as she whispered, "Mr. Raff is in..." What the fuck? He went? This was Mr. Raff from the Psychology Alchemist that he had pursued of the Mind Dragon Arihawk. It was suspected to be one of Hermes' identities. What the fuck is he doing in the Hall House? As she spoke, Audrey reached out her hand and closed the door, and with this action, the back of her hand flashed with a star-like crimson tattoo. "I'm sorry I made use of you." When the door closed, the giant white rabbit took the initiative to say, "However, I might have been used by someone else as well." Audrey thought of opening the door and window in the middle of the night and took 2 steps forward. She replied and thought, "There's no need to apologize, just don't disturb me in the future." She was tactfully expressing that she wanted to leave the Psychology Alchemist, hoping that no one would come looking for her again. The huge white rabbit stared at her with its bright red eyes for a few seconds and said, "Your previous wish was to protect your parents and family, but don't you think that you've been embroiled in too much trouble? The danger that you've brought them is greater than the help you provide." Audrey fell silent. She didn't speak for a long time. I'm sorry, after that spoiler we know, ain't no shot anything's gonna happen to Audrey. She's in the game, and the game is canon, so there's no way. She's A-okay. I'm not gonna fall for this bait. Just like in the game, I'm like, how are we gonna jump Magoose, this and that? We're probably gonna have like some high-level entity in the game just do like historical void projections of all the bosses we fight, but nothing's gonna happen to Audrey, because the fact that the MMO game is canon means she's chill. We're good. I'm not coping. You guys are coping. I am hoping you guys are coping, okay? Normally speaking, a saint can indeed ensure the safety of one's family and loved ones, but the premise is that they do not involve themselves in a struggle between angels or deities, or perhaps they are part of a powerful organization that can be relied in the true sense of the word. Upon saying this, the huge white rabbit slowly said, "I have 2 gifts to express my apology. You can choose one." "2?" Audrey asked in a low voice. The giant white rabbit nodded, its ears constantly wiggling. "One is to truly become Miss Pride of the Psychology Alchemist. We could ignore all your other secrets and tactfully allow your other operations. As long as you don't reveal our matters and bring danger to the Psychology Alchemist, of course, there will be a certain disadvantage. You will shoulder the burden of a certain matter and might be embroiled in quite a bit of trouble. The only difference is that what's going to lead her to her scenario. The only difference is that you will receive a lot of help and be rescued in time." What about the second one? Audrey had no intention of getting compensation from Psychology Alchemist. To not have the secret organization disturb her again was the best form of apology. Furthermore, she suspected that Mr. Reff's true intentions behind his apology was just another form of exploitation. The huge white rabbit answered calmly, "I can help you divide another identity." Oh, divide. I get it. Ah, you motherfuckers. I get it. "I can help you divide another identity for you so that she can stay by your family and provide them with some protection and emotional comfort. As for you, you will stay away from them and live on this world with another identity." What the fuck? Audrey? Wait, I get it. No fucking way. This way, your troubles would not affect the people you want to protect. In the supernatural world, under certain... Wait, no, she has to leave them. In the supernatural world, under certain circumstances, distancing yourself is the best form of love and protection. Fuck. Audrey fell silent once again as her green eyes seemed like a still lake. You don't need to answer me at once, or do you combine the two methods? The giant white rabbit got off the high stool and stood up. You know how to get into the Garden of Eden. As it spoke, its figure gradually disappeared into the sea of collective subconsciousness. Oh shit, I get it. She actually gets split. Like she physically gets split. Bayam in a room in the Church of the Sea God, the Oracle Denitz dressed in... Dude, I saw what you guys... I saw how you guys rolled Dara with the Nitz scene. Fucking, you guys made her play All Was Well. That was funny, dude. The Oracle Denitz, dressed in a gorgeous robe, sat on the chair, silently looking at Olga Wilson. The sleepiness from waking up in the middle of the night was gone from the fright. The Cardinal of the Church of Storms actually wanted to defeat the Church of the Sea God. This was a huge matter in the field of religion. In the world of mysticism and international politics, even though he only had a rough understanding of the Church of Storms, the Nits believed with their style in handling matters, they definitely wouldn't let this matter go. Perhaps a calamity was already on its way to the entire roasted archipelago to destroy it. Furthermore, a cardinal is definitely higher valued by the Lords of Storms. Olga betrayal might attract a god's punishment at any time. The more the Nits thought about it, the more he trembled, afraid that he would be affected. This made him recall a saying from his hometown, "Don't be near people abandoned by the gods." This is because those guys might be implicated when lightning smote down. If not for the fact that German Sparrow had sent me a message in the name of being Mr. Fool's attendant to help me settle Olga Wilson in, I would have already tied up the ticking bomb and sent him back to the Church of the Lords of Storms. The more afraid the Nitz was, the more he couldn't help but mutter inwardly. Of course, he was just letting his thoughts run wild. He didn't even consider the difference in strength. After a while, someone knocked on this door. The Nitz jumped up and quickly walked to the door, opening a crack. Any results? He asked in a low voice. The initial supervisor of the Church of the Sea God simply said, "Lord Oracle, the Church of Storms has switched cardinals. What about the original one?" The Nitz pressed in surprise. It said that he was transferred back to the headquarters. The Intel supervisor recounted what he learned from some servants of the Cathedral of Waves. Transferred back to their headquarters, as the Nitz was confused, a grayish-white fox suddenly appeared in front of him. He heard Mr. Fool's words, "From this day forth, Olga shall wear a mask and become the pontiff of the Church of the Sea God." Oh shit, even Olga went up. Everybody's advancing. Audrey's over here gonna be like physically split. Olga's advancing, Audrey's advancing. Fucking Derek already advanced. Fucking everybody's advancing. I'm telling you, man, by the end of book 1, start of book 2, the Terror Club is going to be one of the strongest orgs in the verse, period. Oh, man. Olga's basically the Pope of the Church of the Fool. I cannot imagine Olga dressed in like a Pope attire, preaching the gospel of the Fool. Oh, man. All right, chapter 1361 is called Joint Operation. Pontiff, the Nitz jumped in fright, nearly unable to believe the revelation he had received. Did we update? Yes. If it wasn't for the fact that this order directly came from Mr. Fool, he would have definitely cursed. Of course, if the person opposite him was German Sparrow, he would have sucked it up. Lord Oracle, is there anything else? The Intel supervisor, the Church of Sea God, saw Lord the Nitz's expression was rather odd. This left him a little afraid. The Nitz retracted his thoughts and forced a smile. Pay close attention to the development of the Cardinal of Waves. Yes, Lord Oracle. The Intel supervisor heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to bid farewell. The Nitz turned his head and looked at Olga Wilson as he said with a brilliant smile, "Mr. Fool has already issued a revelation." Olga didn't hesitate. He merely stood up and pressed his right palm against his left chest. The Nitz straightened his back and solemnly said, "God said that from this day forth, Olga shall wear a mask and become a pontiff of the Church of Sea God. Mr. Fool's will is my will." Olga couldn't hide his smile as he bowed. Half the smile was the Nitz showing his humility, while the other half was from the bottom of his heart. This is because the revelation meant two things. Mr. Fool and the Lords of Storms have reached a stern agreement with a tacit understanding his betrayal would no longer be pursued. Of course, he had to wear masks and use a fake name to prevent humiliation of the Lords of Storms, because the pontiff of the Church of the Sea God was a critical step to reaching the throne of Sea God. From Olga's point of view, this meant that he had officially become Mr. Fool's subordinate. I mean, he kind of always was, man. In the future, be it in exchange for the identity of Sea God, or being the leader of the Church of the Fool, there would be plenty of opportunities. As for Mr. Fool, you know what? Oliver did step up. He was a great existence that was at the same level of a true god or even higher. How could his proxy not be an angel? After the bow, Olger waited patiently for Oracle Denitz to bring him a silver black mask. He received the mask and wrote it solemnly. While wearing a red glove, Leonard strolled along the shores of Midseashire, enjoying the R&R earned from the closed and supernatural case. As for the mysterious opening of doors and windows last night, he had... Oh, it's barely been a day? Last night. He had already received the orders from the Holy Cardinal not to pursue it throughout the investigations or learn more about the matter. Regarding this order, Leonard couldn't do anything about it because he had long learned that the general truth from old man Palazaros. Mr. Dora had returned to the real world, and Angel of Time Amon took the opportunity to steal his apotheosis ritual and advance his sequence 0 error. Almost at the same time, Mr. Fool awakened further through Sephiric Castle. He had briefly and weakly connected to Beyonders of the Seer pathway, of the Seer Apprentice and Marauder pathway. As an angel of the Marauder pathway, Palazaros was undoubtedly able to sense the changes in Amon's corresponding authority and his apotheoses. He also discovered that Sephiric Castle had established a connection with him. Old Man Amon had already advanced to sequence 0. You shouldn't be of much use to him now. Why do you still want to parasitize my body? Leonard took in the fresh morning air. Yeah, why? Leonard took in the fresh morning air as he suppressed his voice and asked with a hint of concern and confusion. In his mind, Palazaros scoffed. Naive. Do you think that you don't need my guidance anymore after becoming a saint and having mastered a lot of mysticism knowledge? You can choose to teach me face to face, Leonard said after some deliberation. To him, having an angel parasitizing his body was both a boon and bane for him. The good thing was that even if he encountered a real mythical creature, he wouldn't be completely defenseless. As long as he softly shouted, "Old man," the problem might be resolved. In addition, the history and various rare mysticism knowledges from the 4th epoch were already rather useful. The greatest disadvantage was that his life was in the hands of the parasite. If the other party had any evil intentions, he couldn't stop it. This question was once Leonard's greatest worry, but it wasn't too problematic now. This was because Mr. Fool's awakening was deepening and allowing him to completely surpass Palazaros. Furthermore, Leonard had also become a high-ranking deck on the Church of Evernight. He would definitely be under the watch of the Evernight goddess, and he could even be specifically marked by her. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for a deity with the concealment authority to not discover Palazaros, so even he's discovered. If Old Man has any nefarious thoughts, he would have been resolved long ago. So now he's chill, we're homies. What Leonardo was most vexed about was that many things weren't too convenient as a result. Although he was already used to having an old man parasitizing his body, and he would even casually chat with him while on the toilet. They would chat on the toilet? And what the fuck? He would even casually chat with him while on the toilet. He still preferred having the time to himself in such situations. Therefore, he felt that having the old man leave his body and letting him live in the house like an elder would be a better way of him getting along with him. When he needed to deal with more dangerous matters, he could get old man to temporarily parasitize him. Upon hearing Lenar's suggestion, Palazaros scoffed. Are you still thinking about removing the parasitizing when you return home and parasitize went out? Do you think I'm your bodyguard? Leonard laughed dryly before saying, if you haven't fully recovered and wish to continue parasitizing, I have no objections. Palazaros fell silent for 2 seconds before his slightly aged voice resounded in Leonard's mind. Next up is actually the most dangerous period. From this position of the Lord of the Mysteries, the Fool and Amon will definitely have a battle. When the time comes, the Fool and Amon will definitely have a battle. No way that's how Volume 8 ends. When the time comes, under the influence of all kinds of beyond characteristics, angels of the same pathway might be affected. It's better to keep under the protection of the Evernight's gaze. When the Lord of the Mysteries is born, I won't even bother with you, even if you were to beg me to be parasitized. Leonardo was slightly taken aback as he subconsciously repeated the name Lord of the Mysteries. This isn't something you can fully understand. Of course, with me around, there's no need to worry. Palazaros sighed and said with pride. Leonard was just about to take the opportunity to ask when he suddenly saw the Red Glove team members running over with a telegram. Reverend, a telegram from the Holy Cathedral, the team members said respectfully. Leonard nodded slightly and received the telegram. He quickly scanned it, head to the Southern Continent and participate in the besieging of the Rose Skull Thoughts. Southern Continent, Rose Skull Thought, Leonard narrowed down keywords. Oh my, keyboards. He quickly returned to the largest cathedral in the city and used a large-scale ritualistic magic to establish a connection with the Holy Cardinal. In his dream, he met the Pope, Mam Mariana, and other high-ranking officials. After a simple exchange, Leonard roughly understood the essence of the mission. The various Orthodox churches would delegate 3 to 4 demigods to hear the southern continent to besiege the Roscoe thoughts, which had to become very active after the World War. This was a long-term mission, as the Roscoe thought demigods knew how to hide their tracks. They did things in a rather secretive manner, as they weren't easy to locate or lock onto. It wasn't easy to deal with them either. According to what the Pope had said, it was already considered quite good to see enough results within 3 years. During this process, the Holy Cathedral would observe the situation and rotate demigods to ensure that the archbishops and high-ranking decans were in a relatively stable mental state. After leaving the dream, Leonard looked around and suppressed his voice. Old man, things are a little strange. Why would the various churches suddenly target the Roscoe thought? This wasn't an easy task. In the past few centuries, it wasn't as if the Orthodox churches had made similar attempts, but they could only suppress and weaken them without being capable of eradicating the Roscoe thought. On the other hand, it was because there were cracks in their alliances, there were suspicions among each other, and a lack of cooperation. On the other hand, due to the Roscoe thought's demigod's indulgence, their mental states, aren't they like kind of half crazy? Their mental states might be abnormal, but when faced with danger, they knew how to avoid, hide, and conceal. They would throw themselves into danger for no reason. In addition, with the blessings of the Chain God and the Mother Tree of Desire, it was difficult for the deities to provide precise guidance for their actions. Palazaros didn't immediately answer Leonard's questions. After about 10 seconds, he sighed and said with a slightly aged voice, "This is to eliminate potential threats and to prepare for the apocalypse." Prepare for the apocalypse. Leonard turned to Gabe and wanted to say something, but he eventually fell silent. Backland Harvest Church. Emlyn White had just entered the hall, but before he could head to this room and change his clothes, he saw Father Trotsky stand up in front view like a mountain rising from the ground. Earth Mother had instructed us to head to the southern continent and bury the evil doers. The blessed spoke in a low voice. His voice reverberated in the hall like a slow clap of thunder, causing the praying of the sanguine believers to open their eyes. So the dream last night was real. Emlyn was enlightened. Last night, he dreamed of the ancestor, and he dreamed that she wanted him to work with Father Trotsky and the Roscoe Thought's Temperance faction to head to the southern continent to deal with the Roscoe Thought members who believed in the primordial moon. Of course, there's a chance the enemies who believed in the Mother Tree of Desire would not be spared. As he often had fake revelations, Emlyn didn't take this dream to heart. He planned on changing his clothes and completed his prayer before to seek confirmation with Father Trotsky. He tearfully acknowledged before replying to Father Trotsky in a rather composed manner, "There's no rush. Our first contact the members of the Roscoe Thought Temperance faction." Father Trotsky nodded nonchalantly and said, "Select some volunteer sanguine to, and the Intis Republic in the capital tier, a supervisor of intelligence agencies was assigned tasks to subordinates." Suddenly, his vision blurred as he heard a distant voice ring in his ears. Who? Trier? An Intis Republic in the capital Trier. Okay. Orville Dillon. Oh shit, music change! Let me reread this again one more time. In the Intis Republic in the capital Trier, a supervisor of intelligence agencies was assigned tasks to his subordinates. Suddenly, his vision blurred and he heard a distant voice ring in his ear. Orville Dillon. Who the fuck are these names? I don't remember hearing a Orville or hearing a damn Dillon in this series. We're changing it back to that song? Back in Backland. Bet. Chapter 1336 is called Witness. Chapter 1362 is called Witness. As a Beyonder who joined the Intis Public Security Bureau as a member of the Secret Order, it wasn't the first time that Antoine encountered something like that. In the past, whenever he would hear Hornicus Flagera... In the past, whenever he advanced, he would hear Hornicus Flagera. He nearly lost control of himself several times. Unlike before, the content of the whispers seemed to have changed. After the ravings died down, everything in front of him returned to normal. Antoine also heard Hornicus Flagera? Is that what we're saying? After the ravings died down, everything in front of him returned to normal. Antoine frowned and muttered to himself, "My mental state has been very stable recently, and I haven't consumed the potion or attempted to advance. Why would I hear the whispers of a secret existence? This doesn't seem to be the same as before. What does Orville mean? Orville Dillon? Dillon Orville? I lack enough information. I can't understand it at all. Dylan. Yes, the brass of the order has mentioned that our mysteries and terrifying leaders once hid an ancient castle called Dylan? Tisk, once I recall the existence, I can't help but shiver. Although he had returned to normal in the past 2 years, the terrifying legends and physical destruction that he left behind is enough to give people a lifetime of nightmares. Antion calmed himself down and suppressed his puzzlement. He continued to assign the missions to his subordinates. In front of a tombstone, Klein, who had just put down the white flowers, turned his head slightly as though he was listening to something. Although he didn't hear anything, as a king of angels who wielded control over a portion of his pathway of authority, he could acutely sense that something was amiss. Some secret information was being transmitted to specific targets. As a king of angels who wielded control over a portion of his pathway authorities, he could... Zarltul isn't completely dead yet. Klein retracted his gaze and muttered to himself. Back then, he had relied on this level status and authority to forcefully stop Zarltul's resurrection. He didn't sense anything abnormal, but after studying himself, he realized something problematic. The Beyonder characteristic he had absorbed from Zarltul was one of the contained an entire set of Sequence 9 to 1 Beyonder characteristics. That also meant that this only included a single Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic, and Snake of Fate Wool Obstinton had mentioned that Zarltul and the ancestor of the Antiquitas family had both taken an additional Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic in them. Therefore, the reality of the situation was that there was no doubt that there was an additional Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic on Zarltul, which had vanished. As for whether there were any additional Beyonder characteristics like Scholar of Yore and Bizarre Sorcerer, Klein had no way of guessing due to his lack of understanding of Zarltul. Okay, so it's up in the air. Based on the situation, Klein had long suspected that Zarltul wasn't completely dead. Of course, if the other party wanted to revive it, wouldn't be that simple. This was because using too simple a method would result in a lack of concealment, and Klein would pick him up right away. It would definitely be discovered by the higher sequence of Beyonders of the same pathway, and thus an effective prevention method would be set up. When Zarltul was able to separate a sequence 2 Beyonder characteristics for himself, he was undoubtedly a Sequence 1 attendant to the mysteries. There weren't many enemies that could restrain him when they had to deal with using the most cautious of attitudes. Therefore, Klein believed that he had to fucking Klein is he now. Therefore, Klein believed that he had to use the portion of the Beyonder characteristics that he had disassociated from himself to seize an opportunity. However, it wasn't to directly use it to revive. Instead, it was a way to make plenty of preparations. He needed an opportunity or some mediums to make preparations to play out. From the looks of it, he had hit that portion of Beyonder characteristics that contained the Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic in a particular manner and concealed it carefully. Otherwise, when I advance to Tentative Mysteries, I shouldn't be able to use Safari Castle to directly see it. Wait, I don't get that. Otherwise, when I advanced with Tentative Mysteries, I shouldn't have been able to use Safari Castle to directly see it. Yes, the next step should be to use some concealed method to guide or entice a specific target to revive him. He hasn't accommodated a uniqueness so he can broadcast on all channels. Besides, he has to be sure that he advanced me or Amon doesn't hear the corresponding contents and spoil his plans. Therefore, the number of targets he can entice is rather limited. Oh, is that... So the guy back then, was he being enticed? All members of the Secret Order or a portion of the members, Klein, who was genuflecting, nodded and thought. He exhaled and grumbled without hiding anything. Why are the high sequence Beyonders of the Seer Pathway so difficult to kill? Tell me about it. There were all sorts of preparations and trump cards. This made him truly understand why the goddess didn't directly kill the ancestor of the Antiquitas family. For the half full, death might mean a new lease of life. Oh, because he could come back in a way. However, an intricate and complicated setup often means that the ability to take risks is inferior. Who knows if Zarltul's resurrected plan will benefit some lucky Secret Order member? The possibility of this happening might even be higher than him returning from the fog of history. Also, there's a chance of being interfered, influenced, or exploited by the outer deities. Klein sneered inwardly as he slowly stood up. He temporarily didn't have any thoughts of hiding the Miracle Invoker beyond a characteristic. This was because under the immense pressure brought by Error Amon, he had no choice but to seize the opportunity to strengthen his humanity and stabilize his mental state. He had to head to Cauldron City in the spirit world and retrieve the river of the eternal darkness so as to accommodate the Fool's uniqueness. He had no time to waste on a non-urgent matter. By the time he successfully advanced and restored the new balance for the situation he was in, he didn't mind heading to Intis and dealing for the members of the Secret Order in search of the hidden... Wait. Did we just head back? Yeah, music changed when we're back in Backland. Thank you, Cammy. By then, he successfully advanced and restored the new balance for the situation he was in. He didn't mind heading to Intis and dealing with the members of the Secret Order in search of the hidden treasure vault that Zaratul had hidden. This would completely put the angel who had lived since the 4th epoch to eternal rest. He reined in his thoughts and lowered his head to look at the tombstone in front of him. Klein slowly retreated, inserted his hand into his pocket, and turned to the side to enter the spirit world. In recent times, he was like a tourist in mysticism. Occasionally, he would return to where he used to be, and occasionally, under the guidance of fate, he would casually travel around the spirit world, heading to different realities to witness different scenes. As a result, his self-awareness and self-consciousness gradually recovered and solidified. He was now able to use anchors to suppress the awakening's will of the celestial worthy to a certain extent. This made his mind a lot more stable than when he met the Evernight Goddess. In the spirit world, the saturated layers that resembled an abstract oil painting. I remember this. This was the saturated layers that resembled an... Oh, I'm stupid. I was thinking of an item. Or I was thinking of the painting that would, like, steal someone's soul. No, but we're in the spirit world. Klein wandered aimlessly as he walked a few steps in a direction that wasn't in his usual meaning of the world direction. Following the guidance of fate and spirituality, he left this place and returned to the real world. The first thing that appeared before him was a small square and the cathedral belonging to the Evernight Goddess. At this moment, many people were entering the cathedral, looking delighted. I'm back in Backland. Klein looked up the sun and penetrated the thin clouds and followed the crowds to the cathedral's door. Oh shit. The moment he passed the entrance, his gaze suddenly froze. Oh, okay. Is this why we're playing it? Let me read this. Oh, I got a tear in my eye already. We're only 30 minutes into the recording. I already got a little tear in my eye. I'm back in Backland. Klein looked up at the sun that penetrated the thin clouds that followed the crowd to the cathedral's door. The moment he passed the entrance, his gaze suddenly froze. He saw Benson Moretti. The black-haired, brown-eyed man's face looked somewhat similar to Klein's. However, the slightly older-looking man had his hair combed neatly backwards, revealing his broad forehead. He stood beside the altar wearing a well-ironed suit, looking a little nervous. Ah, shit. Klein stared for 2 seconds before he quickly looked away. Following that, he swept his gaze across the front view and saw Melissa in white, conservative dress. Compared to before, the young lady's face no longer had the adolescent look on it. Oh, wow, they're older now. There was more meat to her face, making her no longer look so skinny. Oh, because they're able to eat now. She kept chatting with the people around her, skillfully handling all kinds of matters and socializing. She still dresses in such an old-fashioned manner. Thankfully, she didn't wear black. Oh my god. So she's like finally starting to move on. The corners of Klein's lips curled up as she mumbled. He walked to a corner of the cathedral and found a seat to sit down. I'm about to cry. About 10 minutes later, Melissa finished her work and sat in her seat. The joyous music started to play as it gradually turned solemn. Oh, I gotta lower the volume. A lady wearing a clean white wedding gown held her father's arms in one hand and held her mother's arms with her other. She walked down the aisle towards the altar. Benson, who was standing near the altar, gulped a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help but smile. This was... What? Benson, who was standing near the altar, gulped a mouthful of saliva and oh my god! And couldn't help but smile. This was his wedding. Klein, who was in the corner, saw the scene and leaned back. Oh my god! Oh wait, what? What do you mean he's getting married? Oh shit! Oh man! I'm already crying. It's so beautiful, dude, but it's so sad. Klein isn't there, but he's not there at the same time. Oh man! Oh wait, I guess you gotta lower the volume. Give me a sec. This was his wedding. Klein, who was in the corner, saw the scene and leaned back a bit. He lowered his head slightly and muttered, his smiles like a curly-haired badoon. After the bride was brought to front of the altar by his parents, she bowed to Benson before facing the sacred emblem and the priest. Benson bowed and turned around. After the bride's parents sat down, the priest said, "Dear friends and family, we are gathered here today to witness and celebrate the union of this couple in marriage under the auspicious of the benevolent goddess." Praise the lady. All the guests present raised their right hands as long as they believed the Evernight Goddess before drawing 4 points in a clockwise fashion, drawing out a star. This included Klein. Klein's in the same thing. Yo, what's up, dude? When everyone settled down, the priest turned his head and said to the bride, "Do you, Lucy Brooke, take Benson Moretti to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Oh my god. Let me loop the song. I forgot to loop it. promising to love and cherish through joy and sorrow, sickening and health, and whatever challenges you may face for as long as you both shall live. The lady named Lucy looked at the evernight goddess and sacred emblem and nodded solemnly. I do. Oh, man. Benson smiled, reappeared. The priest turned to look at him and said, do you, Benson Moretti, take Lucy Brooke to be your lawfully wedded wife, promising to love and cherish through joy and sorrow? Oh, this is the most beautiful thing ever. Through joy and sorrow, sickness and health, and whatever challenges you may face for as long as you both shall live. Benson immediately nodded and said, I do. Upon seeing this and hearing him, Melissa's vision turned blurry. Her heart winced along with joy. Oh my god, they're finally happy, dude. After going through all sorts of ups and downs, her family was finally welcoming a new member. Oh man. Suddenly, she turned her head subconsciously to the corner, saw an empty seat. There was no one there. Wow, man. I'm about to need a 1 hour break after this. Melissa immediately pursed her lips and shook her head slightly. After scanning the area for several seconds, she slowly retracted her gaze and looked back at the altar. It wasn't until the priest announced that Benson and Lucy were man and wife that Melissa smiled again. In the Hall family matter in Eastchester County, Klein walked out of the void. He had stabilized his mind and could now seek treatment for his psychiatrist. At the same time, he needed to solve a problem. Oh, man. Oh, shit, man. She looked over and Klein wasn't there. What the fuck, man? Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love this series. Ah, you guys wanted me to finish there, man? I cry, you cry. We all cry. Oh, that was so good, dude. That was such a fucking good chapter. Oh, man. We're just gonna go straight into it. Next chapter. Chapter 1363 is called Treatment Plan. Oh, shit. Time step. We just keep reading. We just keep reading through the tears. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. One solid tear came out of my right eye. Woo. I didn't cry. You guys are babies. You guys cried? That made you cry? Come on, man. On the veranda covered by the autumn sun, Audrey wore a refreshing vacation straw hat and sat on a lawn chair. Wait, who? Audrey wore a refreshing vacation straw hat and sat on the lawn chair as she leisurely flipped through a fashion magazine. On the veranda covered by the autumn suns, Audrey wore a refreshing vacation straw hat and sat on a lawn chair as she leisurely flipped through a fashion magazine. There were exquisite pastries and a cup of black tea made from tea leaves from her family's manor on the round table beside her. Let me raise the volume. Suddenly, she looked up at the edge of the veranda and saw German Sparrow walking over in the black trench coat and soap top hat. Audrey turned her head and glanced at her maid, Annie, and realized that she, like the servants around her, ignored the stranger who had appeared out of nowhere. At the same time, Audrey noticed the surroundings seemed to darken a little. She stood up, lifting the corners of her skirt as she courtesied. During this process, she had originally planned on seriously discussing the matter between the psychology alchemist and Mr. Raff. But on second thought, she smiled again and said in the infectious and brisk tone, Mr. World, are you here to see psychological counseling or to deal with Mr. Raff's problem? If it was just a former, Audrey believed that the World German Sparrow would let her meet him above the Grey Fog. That would be more convenient and faster. Therefore, this angel was definitely here under Mr. Fool's instructions to complete a mission in the real world. At the same time, she actually sensed that Mr. World's emotions were rather mixed. He was satisfied and happy, yet depressed and sad. As German Sparrow's main doctor, the situation wasn't rare. It often meant that he needed a certain degree of counseling or comfort. Both. Klein pulled a chair over and sat by the round table. Do you want black tea or coffee? Music change at the end of 64. During this process, they had attended the meeting, banquets, and dances together, and under the keen observation of a spectator, many details weren't secrets. For example, Audrey knew that when Dwayne Dantes was German Sparrow, he preferred food that was sweet with a little sourness. He liked to drink coffee with sugar without milk. For black tea, he loved having lemon slices. Lemon slices? Out of all the pastries, his first choice was the cream pastries. He loved foie gras, roasted chicken skin, and loved rib-eyed steak. More than beef tenderloins, his love for Desi pie far exceeded bread. In addition, Audrey was undoubtedly certain that the other party was a spice enthusiast. He had high expectations of condiments, and his preferences in this aspect were inclined towards the Desi County. Due to these details, Audrey believed that it would be very rude to not invite Mr. World to enjoy the pastries on the table, and the beverage of choice to match these snacks was undoubtedly either black tea or coffee. Black tea, Klein answered after some thought. Miss Justice's relaxed and elderly attitude made him feel much more at ease. He felt that this state would be more beneficial for the subsequent placating. Since that was the case, oh man, my eyes are a little blurry. Since that was the case, it would definitely be better for him to enjoy the pastries while receiving psychological treatment. Give me another cup of black tea and add a lemon slice, Audrey said to her maid, Annie. Annie wasn't surprised by the instructions, finding everything reasonable. She turned around and walked to the Veruda entrance, giving instructions to the servant standing there. Audrey wasn't in a rush to begin the psychological treatment process, nor did she ask Mr. World why he was in a complicated mood. She smiled as she carefully introduced the local products of the manor. She made a comparison with Dwayne Dante's major manor and naturally informed him of the present situation regarding his butler and servants. Some stayed in the manor and continued this previous work with Mayor Manor's production. It was perfectly fine, sustaining them. There were even more surplus that could be converted to funds to repair the houses to be donated to the charity organizations. Audrey only sent an accountant and assistant butler and staff members to the foundation to do a check on them. Some felt that without a true employer, they couldn't play the role to their fullest potential. They felt ashamed at the salary they received and chose to reason and look for work. Some of them developed an interest in charity work and found a new I need to clean these. And found a new calling to life and joined the other foundations under Audrey's name. Klein listened silently, occasionally raising a question as though he was chatting with a friend. When the tea was served, he took a sip as she nodded in satisfaction. After watching him eat a piece of cream cake, Audrey's green eyes darted around and she said a smile. Food doesn't seem to be necessarily for an angel, right? Yes, it's just a hobby, Klein answered simply before adding. If it can be used to maintain one's humanity, Audrey ruminated over the sentence. This is to resist the godhood within you. Your mental problems come under such a category. She gently guided the topic to his psychological treatment. Klein nodded slightly and said, that's right. You should have experienced it. Every Beyonder who has obtained godhood will definitely experience it in some way. The difference is in its quantity. Audrey seriously recalled and said, I occasionally dream of a ball of light that illuminated the entire world. Okay. Occasionally, I would hear an indescribable sound, and I would see a blurry, strange, illusory ocean that seemed to contain many conflicting thoughts. I'm certain that it was an illusion, but it was all surreal. While I occasionally dream of a huge cross, I hear someone praying softly, but I couldn't tell the specifics no matter how much I tried. The second is likely from Sephira Castle, Chaos Sea, and the indirect corruption from within. The third is Visionary Adam beginning to exert influence on the Beyonders of the same pathway. The first one is a primordial one. The first one is a primordial one awakening in the ancient sun god's body, and the ancient God Almighty. Klein thought for a moment before saying in a deep voice, the original creator created all living things and also split into various Beyonder characteristics. This is the source of being extraordinary. Therefore, every one of us has godhood in our bodies. They have the original creator's will. The more Beyonder characteristics gather, the more he will awaken and replace us. Bro, that's wild, man. Like, if this actually happens... He used the most common and most ambiguous method to explain the root of the problem in a way that wouldn't lead to corruption. This has been discussed to a certain extent at the Terror Club, so Audrey didn't find it difficult to understand. She said thoughtfully, that's why one needs to use one's humanity to resist godhood. At the same time, anchors are needed. Yes, the light you dream of, the indescribable sounds you hear, and the illusionary ocean that you see are all types of corruption, and the gigantic cross and prayer sounds should be a result of the influence that Visionary Adam has on the Beyonders of the same pathway. Klein explained the two different situations. Audrey subconsciously sat up straight and looked around. She appeared a little afraid. A little? Gerben Sparrow actually said the name of the he who must not be named. Don't worry, he can't hear me with me by your side, Klein explained. Audrey retracted her gaze and didn't hide her surprise and astonishment. You've already advanced to sequence 1. Adam's a goat? The goat? Isn't that too fast? He had only become a Sequence 2 angel slightly more than half a year ago. Klein answered frankly, more like a king's of angel. Audrey was silent for a few seconds. She pursed her lips and said with a vexed smile, I nearly had a psychological problem just now. Klein chuckled as well. To me, becoming a king of angels isn't necessarily a good thing. Yes, high Sequence Beyonders, the spectator pathway, have to pay particular attention to their mental state. To other pathways, the enhancement of godhood and the worsening corruption is rather obvious. But this isn't the case for a spectator. Can you guys hear the music? You have to constantly inspect and check yourself. Any tiny changes in one's personality and their understanding of things should be traced back to the source. It must be confirmed that there are problems, that the differences can be considered a normal change. Otherwise, you'll unknowingly become another person who can totally kill those who originally wanted to protect. It's not easy for Beyonders. Yes, okay. It's not easy for Beyonders, the spectator pathway, to go crazy, but it's also easiest for them to go crazy. Audrey replied in shock, I understand. She continued the topic and began asking, your mental state is unstable and you have a psychological problem. Is it because you became King Angels in such a short period of time that it exceeded your expectation? Yes. Klein drank a mouthful of black tea and said, the will that doesn't belong to me within me has mostly awakened. Holy shit, dude. The will that doesn't belong to me within me has mostly awakened. I can only barely suppress it and maintain some basic level of mental stability. Oh, man, this isn't good, dude. Oh, he is so fucking dead, dude. Oh, he is so dead, bro. There's no coming back, bro. I'm already mentally preparing myself, dude. Like, RIP, bro. It's GG. As Audrey listened to German Sparrow's description, she used her beyond powers to observe and analyze him. After the other party finished speaking, she revealed a comforting smile and said, I roughly understand your current situation. The initial treatment plan is divided into 2 steps. I'll first enter your mind world and awaken the memories related to your humanity. Oh, this could be beautiful. Oh, it doesn't include the kind that will make you miserable that you wish to give up. Then when your godhood reacts, I'll use placate, hypnotism, and other beyond powers to reduce the corruption and the negative effects it brings. And so as to help you better suppress it, Klein was silent for a moment before saying, okay. He decided to use his unique traits in maintaining lucidity in the dream and mind world, and first gather up the memories related to the fool before grafting them to the worms of spirit above the grey fog. At that moment, Audrey got her maid Annie to bring over a white silk scarf. Then she used the thin scarf to cover her eyes and ears. Klein watched the scene in puzzlement as he waited for Miss Justice to explain. After tying the scarf, Audrey smiled and said, this is a hypnotism that allows me to seal my spirit body's perception. This way, even if I were to enter your mind world, I wouldn't be able to hear or see those awakened memories. Of course, I'll keep my spiritual intuition, otherwise I wouldn't be able to find your island of consciousness. And I wouldn't be able to see your changes in godhood. I could have just hypnotized you, but you're already kings of angels. I'm worried that I'll be affected by your consciousness. So I'll be using the symbolic ritual to achieve the state of being hypnotized and strafing the effects. She calmly explained, calming Klein's mood without him realizing it. He nodded gently and said, all right, let's begin. All right. So this is how we keep our humanity. Proactive Klein. Long story short, I don't envision this to be a happy ending now. There's too much at stake. The series is too serious. The series is getting way too serious for my comfort zone that I don't think we're going to get a happy ending. I think it's going to be like a bittersweet, sad ending. Just like when I've cried during an ending, I feel like it's going to be like that. So, you know, like when a character dies and I'm sad, this time I'm going to be like, oh shit, Klein is dying and I'm crying. We'll see what happens. But chapter 1300, that's what I'm speculating. Like, there's no shot, bro. Chapter 1364. After opening the door to the body of heart and mind, Klein carefully extracted the memories related to the fool. He gathered them together and grafted them above the grey fog. Following that, he saw the blonde-haired Audrey, who had a light white silk scarf covering her eyes. She appeared on the ancient stone steps. Step by step, she landed on his mind island via the sea of the collective subconscious. After some hesitation, Klein no longer allowed his consciousness to stay high in the sky. He gave up the corresponding control and allowed them to return and fuse together. If he didn't do that, he would maintain absolute rationality in the subsequent treatment, making him unable to move by all kinds of memories and lose the possibility of strengthening his humanity. This meant that Audrey's treatment was destined to fail right from the start. Oh no, no! After arriving at the Mind Island, they reassembled a dream world and we're over here. We were listening to Dream Realm earlier, very symbolic. After arriving at the Mind Island, they resembled a dream world. Using her spiritual intuition, Audrey stopped and spread her arms slightly. She recalled her parents' loving love for her, the excitement she felt when she first became a Beyonder, and the joy she felt after helping others change her emotions and emit corresponding fluctuations. This is a method of awakening Gerbenspur's memories related to his humanity. If he doesn't let himself get hypnotized, which he isn't doing. Oh. It was a Beyonder manifestation of the effects of empathy. Scenes that were worth cherishing or those hiding deep within flashed across Audrey's mind one after another. Beneath her feet, from the surface of the island that represented Klein's mind, firefly-like light pointed seeps out of the soil and floated up. I thought it was like you couldn't even do it no matter what. Every point of light presented a different scene, a kid taking a stride forward with his short legs receiving ice cream, a student secretly reading novels and comics under the cover of textbooks, a teenager sitting in front of his computer and playing games with full focus, hearing the sound of a key suddenly, it's his actual memories. Hearing the sound of a key suddenly being inserted into a keyhole, he jumped up and performed a forced shutdown on his computer. Rushing back to his room, happily that his actions weren't discovered, he had a bounce in his step. Going to the living room, he asked his mother for pocket money before appearing beside his father to casually ask questions about his studies. A young adult and his companions pushed a bashful friend to the corridor, rising up to the person he had a crush on. Then he turned around, he laughed loudly, a young adult with some hint of adolescence to him, stealing a glance downstairs, watching a fight leave, but unable to open his mouth no matter what. An employee with a slight protruding belly waving his hands impatiently when he returned home for the holidays. After telling his parents not to serve him food or set up blind dates for him, he sees his parents' white hair and loses himself in the thoughts when he calmed down. A scholarly-looking man and his sister moving out. When they saw the dirt and dust on each other's faces, they laughed. Klein sat at the round table at the veranda, one holding his top hat and the other hanging in midair as though he wanted to cover his face. The two transparent drops of water slowly slid past the two slides of the nose bridge and dripped into the void. Klein closed his eyes, his expression soft and pained. In his mind, oh my god, I am stuttering. In his mind island, Audrey seemed to have transformed into a whirlpool of emotions as she pulled together similar memories. After the entire island was covered in a firefly-like points of light, a faint gray fog emerged. In the fog, there was a door of light that was dyed bluish black. It was formed from illusionary and bright spherical lights. The main body of each spherical light composed the transparent ringed or starlight-like worms and insects. They embraced each other and intertwined like mythical creatures. The door of light looked a little odd at first glance, but if one looked closely, they would discover that its surroundings were dark. It was as though it was wearing a hooded black robe. Thus, on a whole, it looked like it was a known mysterious person hiding under a robe. In the next second, a slippery, illusionary tentacle appeared under the deep black robe of the mysterious person. At that moment, although Audrey's consciousness couldn't see or hear anything, her spiritual intuition gave her a strong sense of danger. She had a feeling that a sea consisting of corruption was about to drown her. No, this isn't an illusion. She believed that if anything continued to develop like this, she would get infected with a severe mental illness. No shot, this is fucking dangerous. Or even lose control and go crazy on the spot. I've never seen that emoji before. That's pretty cool. Audrey was just about to placate herself with all her might, weakening the corruption ahead of her when the fire-like light dots floated above the island rapidly gathered. They illuminated the grayish-white fog, diluting the darkness around the strange door of light, making the tentacles covered in mysterious patterns shrink back. This was also the reason why Klein could receive psychological treatment only after barely suppressing the awakening celestial worthy consciousness. This made music change at the end. During this process, he mobilized Sephira. This made Audrey sense the weakening of the dangers, and she quickly did a psychoanalysis. Then she merely placated the corruption, performing a true act of hypnotism. After repeating it over and over again, Audrey took an unknown amount of time before she finally managed to obtain the initial results she expected. She then let German Sparrow Mind Island return to her body. The treatment was different, so she didn't use a virtual persona and directly used her body of heart and mind. After sensing the end of treatment, Klein raised his hands to wipe his face, allowing the fool's memories grafted above the gray fog to return to his true body. After a few seconds later, Audrey removed the white silk scarf wrapped around her eyes and nose, snapping herself out of the self-hypnotism. She looked at Mr. World opposite her and muttered to herself poignantly, "Is this a mental problem brought by the godhood? How terrifying." Klein nodded slightly and said, "Yes, every angel has one. The only difference is whether it's serious or very serious. Saints have it too. Even low and mid-sequence beyonders who aren't demigods will have it too." Audrey added with German Sparrow's former explanation, "To a low or mid-sequence beyonder, the remnant mental imprint of the former owner of the characteristics is relatively more dangerous." Klein picked up the gold linen cup and took a sip. This was a cruel law of the mysterious world. This is because our beyonder powers come from external objects from the beyonder characteristics. Okay, that's been established. Audrey nodded before shaking her head gently. As they contemplated, she said, I don't think it's pessimistic, just like the source of every human life comes from something else, air, bread, meat, water, etc. When we absorb them, we also absorb their negative effects, accumulating all kinds of problems that eventually make us fall sick. However, this doesn't mean that we have to completely resist them and treat them as external objects. Once they're absorbed, there will always be some part of it that belongs to us. I didn't express it well, but I believe you should understand what I mean. Klein was taken aback for a moment before replying thoughtfully. A Beyonder acquisition of a Beyonder characteristic is like humans having food. Then one should have peace of mind and not have too many repulsive thoughts. It's about resisting it, but also working alongside it, and suppressing it, but also fusing together with it. Roughly like that. After Audrey said that, she laughed self-deprecatingly. However, this also seems to imply a negative message. Humans will eventually die, but Beyonders. She didn't finish her sentence, unwilling to agitate the patient opposite of her. She switched topics and said, pay a visit another 2 times this week. I'll be able to stabilize you under normal conditions. Yes, normal conditions. Also, you can reminisce about things when you're free, or go somewhere when you yearn to go. Klein nodded and said, what do you have in mind about Raph's suggestions? The smile on Audrey's face slowly disappeared as her expression gradually turned serious. Do you have any suggestions? Klein put down his teacup and calmly said, strictly speaking, the danger you bring is divided into 2 categories. One is when you actively or passively involve yourself in certain matters, attracting powerful enemies to your side, implicating your family, relatives, friends, and the innocent. The other is that your very existence allows some factions to target the people you value the most, doing so to threaten you. For the latter, unless you're dead, there's no way for you to ever avoid them. Of course, most of these things are a result of the former. If you give up all of your current identities in the mysticism world and only be Mr. Fool's believer and Miss Audrey Hall, from now on, no longer take an initiative to participate in matters related to Beyonders or other matters with unpredictable elements, you can avoid most of the risks of the former and drastically reduce the latter. But she's not going to do that. Yo, what's up, dude? Under such circumstances, with the Evernight Goddess favoring the Hall family and Mr. Fool's protection provided you is enough to deal with the rare instances of dangers, ensuring your family's safety. That's why there's no need to split off another identity. The split. Okay. So, but she's going to do it. Audrey fell silent for a while. She bit her lower lips indiscriminately, asked, what if I do want to split off an identity? No fucking way she does it. As long as you let that identity believe in Mr. Fool, it's not much different from what I said just now. The only difference is that from this point forward, you will have to stay away from your family and friends and live with another identity. Klein's voice sank slightly as he said in a serious tone, also, are you really fine with Hermes splitting off an identity for you? Audrey's emotions were disrupted by this question. Her eyes flickered and she said, however, splitting identities should be beyond her powers of a sequenced dreamweaver. She definitely wouldn't be able to accomplish it by herself. The corners of Klein's mouth curled up as he suddenly asked, you're able to use that pride mask to enter the Garden of Elder directly. Garden of Eden. As Audrey couldn't take the initiative to mention the psychology alchemist, he very directly pointed it out. Audrey nodded gently, surprised, puzzled, and guessed something. I'm unable to pay the equivalent price, and, without waiting for her to finish, Klein said with a cold expression, on the other hand, Adam has drifted from Mr. Fool and nearly killed me. On the other hand, with the apocalypse approaching, Mr. Fool has prophesied something. When the time comes, he might fall asleep again. Oh, asleep? Because he's fucking dead, bro. Music change soon when you see Sapphire Castle. Okay. He might fall asleep again. As his blessed, I won't be able to escape a similar fate. Oh, no, man. The payment you need to pay is that when such an anomaly happens, perform certain dangerous things according to Mr. Fool's instructions and try hard to awaken him. Oh, no. Without giving Miss Justice a chance to digest the sentence, Klein extended his right hand and grabbed a few times. Avoid ahead of, like, is he going to sleep or is he going to, like, sleep, you know? And grab a few times a void ahead of him, pulling out a grayish-white, cold persona mask. Using his status and Audrey, trusting in him, he forcefully summoned the void projection of pride mask from the historical void. It's connected to my mind, so no one else can use it. Audrey subconsciously pointed at the problem when he saw this. Give me a strand of hair, Klein said calmly. Oh no, the plot is plotting. Audrey didn't think too much about it. She plucked out a strand of blonde hair and handed it to German Sparrow. Klein took out the strand of hair and wrapped it on the eye holes in the persona mask. Then he held his silk hat in one hand and the grayish-white mask in the other and slowly stood up. During this process, he mobilized Sapphire Castle and deceived the rules. Klein wore a pride mask without facing any resistance. Immediately, he saw the human-clothed animal walking upright. he had entered the Garden of Eden directly. Looking at the black cathedral in the middle of the city, Klein curled his lips and took out the staff of stars and wore the silk-top hat over his head. Oh, wait, music. Whew! I got you pretty good. All right. During this process, he mobilized Sephira Castle and deceived the rules. Klein wore a pride mask without facing any resistance. Immediately, he saw human-clothed animals walking upright. He entered the Garden of Eden directly. Oh my god, I finished reading it, dude. I'm a dumbass. Looking at the black cathedral in the middle of the sky, Klein curled his lips and took off the staff of stars and wore the silk-top hat over his head. What do you mean, time for revenge? Against who? Destruction? Who the fuck? Oh. I can't even think who we're fighting. No, we never stall. Never have we ever. Chapter 1365 is called Destruction. As I'm burping. Oh man, this is getting good. The moment they sensed the intrusion of a stranger, the animals wearing cloaks of exquisiting long skirts stirred as they looked at Klein with a desire to attack. At that instant, Klein, who was wearing the pride mask, felt as though he was an enemy of the entire city. Okay. Just hold. Bloodborne 2 will happen, or Bloodborne Remake will happen when the PS6 comes out launch title. This video is going to age like fine wine. I'm telling you. Demon's Souls came out, PS5, Bloodborne PS6. At that instant, Klein, who was wearing the pride mask, that's my little bit of copium. At that instant, Klein, who was wearing the pride mask, felt as though he was an enemy of the entire city. He wasn't unfamiliar with the situation in the Garden of Eden. He knew that the upright animals dressed as humans were in a different aspect of the bestial desires. They were more like conceptual and abstract entities instead of being physical. In other words, they didn't have spirit body threads, so they wouldn't suffer any physical harm. Otherwise, Klein would have hoisted these animals up, allowing them to sway up the wind. In the next second, with the bear whose suit was about to rip apart, Klein taking the lead, the animals in the Garden of Eden either bared their fangs or let them out low growls as they surged towards Klein from all directions. Once bitten or hugged by them, one would be corrupted by the corresponding bestial desire. One could only rely on the willpower or the various beyond powers of the spectator pathway to resist them. Faced with this, if the music is too loud, let me lower it down a bit. Faced with the situation, Klein, who was wearing a half-top hat, tapped the staff of stars without panicking the slightest. He raised his left hand and spread his fingers, and suddenly closed them. The Garden of Eden, formed from Gothic-style architecture, Bloodborne, was suddenly covered in layers of gloom as if a giant curtain had draped over it. Realm of the Mysteries, the embryonic form of a divine kingdom. Oh, he's using his abilities. Put a ladder on our end. Bet. Gotcha. Klein sealed off the Garden of Eden to prevent the powerhouses inside from escaping. Following that, he walked forward one step at a time, like a gentleman taking after a meal straw. How's it? Is it better now? A little bit louder. The animals who mimicked humans by wearing human clothes rushed to the side when they naturally changed directions and embraced each other. The python with its flicking tongue devoured a canine creature filled with desire to mate. The strange person with a colorful spider as a face bound a huge red-eyed rat with a web. A violent werewolf bit the languid cat. What? The brown bear walking upright gave the fox with shiny fur a bear hug. These animals that represented bestial desire fused together as they canceled each other out in pairs. Klein, who had grasped the authority of grafting, slowly walked through them as though he was inspecting the conceptuals of humanity and bestial desires. Just like that, he walked to the 80-meter tall cathedral and stopped. Then he lifted his head and looked at the skulls embedded in the black pillar for 2 seconds. Klein's expression didn't change at all. He raised his left hand and pressed down his hat and walked up the stairs into the cathedral. He immediately saw a grand and spacious hall with a huge cross and grayish-white dragon statues wrapped around the cross. In front of the cross was a small, long table with 5 seats on both sides of the long table. At this moment, at the end of the long table, there was a man in a black wheelchair. German? In a black wheelchair. His face was abnormally pale, and his pale yellow eyebrows were long. His hair was neatly combed, and there were some wrinkles on his forehead. It's literally the first hunter, German. Yeah, it's the first hunter from Bloodborne. This was the leader of the psychology alchemists. No, sorry, that was a Bloodborne reference, okay? Some of you guys are not that old enough to understand that reference. That was a Bloodborne reference. That wasn't an LTM reference. That was a Bloodborne reference. This was the leader of the psychology alchemist, Polly Deraulu. At the same time, he was also the famous hermit Eric Drake. Wait, no. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. No, old, not confirmed. I'm 21. At the same time, I'm young like all you guys. He was also the famous hermit Eric Drake and the king of Black Throne, Barris Hopkins. Of course, whether he was the main body or the one of his various identities, no one knew. Seeing Gurmitsborough, who was wearing a silk-top hat and a black trench coat, walk over slowly in an extremely oppressive manners, Polly Dorelu clasped the armrest on the wheelchair with both hands. A pirate king here. When the other party entered the Garden of Eden, he didn't hesitate to leave this mind city, but he failed to do so. The eyes beneath the pride mask seemed to move towards his forehead and seemed to be mocking him. Phew. Polly Dorelu quickly placated his emotions before his eyes lit up with a pure illusionary light. The light formed a pair of holy wings in front of him. Under the layers of the wings, there was a pious person of light, genuflecting in prayer. This was an angel. At the same time, an elder with white hair and ordinary looks appeared to the left of Polly Dorelu. To his right, a priest with a pale blonde beard covering his face stood up. Adam is here. Ancient angel Hermes, visionary Adam. Klein didn't stop. Oh, okay. What's gonna happen? Klein didn't stop walking forward as he muttered to himself, I wish for all illusions to disappear. Just as he raised his left hand and snapped his fingers, the angel of light Hermes and visionary Adam instantly dissipated and vanished, leaving behind a single Polly Dorelu sitting in the black wheelchair. Klein aura farming? Definitely aura farming. He had just used the beyond powers of a dreamwalker to weave a few almost realistic images. Once the enemy believed that they were real, they would become real. What? Once the enemy believed that they were real, they would become real? Although the damage he caused didn't have any physical manifestations, it would make the target die for unknown reasons. Polly Dorelu had made countless targets die from the fright and such nightmares. Unfortunately, he had encountered the King of Aura. Unfortunately, he had encountered Klein, a king of angels who could maintain his lucidity in dreams and also be possessed true vision. He used the wishes power. He used the way I'm trying to remember now. He used the wishes power of a miracle invoker to easily crack the illusion. Seeing this, Polly Dorelu's eyelids twitched. Without any hesitation, he pushed himself up from the black wheelchair. He did this because of the Staff of Stars, right? Spectator Pathway Man? He used Staff of Stars? Is that why he was able to do that? During this process, his body rapidly expanded as he transformed into a huge grayish white dragon. Dragon transformation, an incomplete mythical creature form. Compared to sequence form manipulator. No, right? Spectator broken plus Adam on the top using it perfectly. Bro, is there artwork on this? Because I already know, the more I read, the more I'm going to get confused. Is there artwork so I can see at least what it looks like? This will help me envision this fight. I don't know what I said. Oh, I said Staff of Stars, my dumbass. An incomplete mythical creature form compared to a sequence form manipulator. I was like, why are you guys saying question marks? Compared to a sequence form manipulator, the incomplete mythical creature form from that Polly Dorelu exhibited was even more larger. Furthermore, there was a certain change to his head, making it closer to a lizard and not a human. It had golden vertical pupils and scales that were interweaved with mysterious patterns, making it cold and warped. At the incomplete mythical creature form appeared, all kinds of thoughts, consciousness, desires, and will swept out like a storm, attacking Klein's mind and island in half illusory and half realistic ways. This was a combination of the mind deprivation and mental plague, allowing every creature that was affected to experience corruption and go crazy on the spot. To an angel, such attacks were the most sinister. This is because all of them had certain problems with their mental states. They could lose control at any moment due to the tilting of the skulls. Klein, who was wearing the grayish-white pride mask and half-top hat, didn't stop walking forward. He did an attempt to avoid the plague and storm of mental level. He remained firm and stoic as he walked step by step towards Polly Dorelu. In the next second, transparent insects appeared on the back of his hand. His clothes expanded as though countless indescribable monsters were crawling underneath. Suddenly, Klein lost control and turned into... Why are we just casually saying he lost control? Suddenly, Klein lost control and turned into a huge whirlpool formed by transparent maggots. The vortex extended out slippery tentacles with strange patterns. In the middle, there was a door of light that was dyed bluish-black. Upon seeing the scene, even the incomplete mythical creature form, Polly Dorelu, found it difficult to stop his thoughts from coming to a halt as he stood rooted to the ground. The massive grayish-white dragon seemed to have become a puppet. He became a puppet? The massive grayish-white dragon seemed to have become a puppet. Its head was filled with mush as its joints were rusted. How the fuck did we pull that off? He had stared straight at the great existence that he shouldn't look at. Okay. Above the great fog, Klein, who was sitting in the full seat, immediately dispersed out of control the historical projection. After entering the Garden of Eden and pulling out the Staff of Stars, he had switched places with the historical void projection that the Worms of Star Spirit inside Sephira Castle had summoned, and directly returned to his ancient palace. Wait. After entering the Garden of Eden, so we enter the Garden of Eden. He pulls out the Staff of Stars. He had switched places with his historical void projection, because I forget, we use it as... And because he uses the Staff of Stars to summon his historical void projection to take on the... Okay. He switched places with historical void projection that the Worms of Spirit inside Sephira Castle had summoned, and directly returned to the ancient palace. And he eats back. He clearly knew that visionary Adam had gone to the Forsaken Lands of Gods and was attempting to fuse with... Yes, this was the end of Volume 6. And attempted to fuse with the true creator, making it impossible for him to descend with his true body. And he realized it wasn't his true body? At any time in short foreseeable future, at most, he would send out one of his other identities, but it would be useless against the kings of angels. However, Klein still felt that he should be cautious, lest he fall into Adam or Amon's trap. No, I am not doomed. We're good. We're good. Oh, sorry, end of Volume 7, not 6. Sorry, because we pushed our Volume 6 discussion, I was thinking 6. No, yeah. We're on 8. Following that, yeah, you're right, it was from 7. Following that, he summoned himself from the fog of history. He wore the Pride Mask and held the Staff of Stars in his hand, and he projected himself back into Cathedral of the Garden of Eden. Seeing that Paulo Duralu had lost most of his rationality and was unable to control his body, Klein didn't directly control his spirit body threats to turn the Mind Dragon into his marionette. He maintained his pace as he slowly approached the target. In Paulo Duralu's eyes, German Sparrow was like death incarnate. He approached him slowly with his own rhythm, but there was no chance to escape. At that moment, the grayish white dragon statue on the huge cross behind him moved. Almost simultaneously, Klein raised his left hand and pulled downwards. The shadow curtain that enveloped the Garden of Eden instantly contracted, enveloping the huge cross, the grayish white dragon statue, and Paulo Duralu within. In the next second, Klein raised the curtain. The incomplete mythical creature that Paulo Duralu had transformed into combined with a gigantic cross as though it was a knotted giant tree. And the grayish white dragon statue connected the entirety of the the grayish white dragon statue connected the entirety of the Garden of Eden, turning the city outside the cathedral into an abnormally... Bro, this is... Okay. Turning the city outside the cathedral into an abnormally illusionary sea that contained all colors. This wasn't the chaos sea, rather the loining of its strength. It had been tampered by Klein and reassembled. What abilities are these? Tampered by Klein and reassembled? I'm forgetting abilities. At that moment, German Sparrow, who had been walking slowly forward, arrived beside the knotted giant tree. He raised his right hand, and under the vacant yet slightly fearful gaze of Paulo Duralu, he lashed out with the Staff of Stars. This cane was embedded with many gems. He hit his target heavily, separating it into two. Between the sounds of the parting falling to the ground, Paulo Duralu's body that had been combined with a huge cross fell to the ground. He just fell. Grafting other names. Oh, okay. So we're taking it. Oh my god, I just realized it says Volume 7. Shit, it said Volume 7 this whole time. I completely forgot to change it. Thank you guys for telling me. Paulo Duralu's body that had been combined with a huge cross fell to the ground. The leader... You guys have to explain this to me right now when we're done. The leader of the psychology alchemist died before he could even... I'm sorry, we killed him just like that. We killed Paulo Duralu just like that. The leader of the psychology alchemist died before he could even say his last words. That's a good character. When you just take him out before they even say anything. Don't even give him a chance, bro. While waiting for Paulo Duralu beyond his characteristics to appear, Klein looked around and chuckled inwardly. As expected, Hermes' true goal was to use the faction backing Mistresses to destroy the Garden of Eden. Wait. Hermes' true goal was to use the faction the psychology alchemist. As expected, Hermes' true goal was to use the psychology alchemists that are backing Mistresses to destroy the Garden of Eden and use it to escape from Amon. To escape Adam. The mind dragon Arihog's words made him steal his resolve. However, he should have still left a few sealed artifacts for me. There's no need to abscond with abscond. No, that's what it says right there. No, it literally says right here. As expected, Hermes' true goal was to use the faction backing Misjustice to destroy the Garden of Eden and use it to escape from Adam. That's what it says. Did I say Amon instead of Adam? I did say that, didn't I? The mind dragon's Arihog's words made him steal his resolve. However, he should have still left a few sealed artifacts for me. There's no need to... Bro, these fights are getting kind of... like, very abstract, bro. There's no need to ascend with everything. Could it be that the rabbit should be wearing a greed mask instead of wrath? The psychology alchemist might appear again in the future, but one controlling it in the shadows is no longer the Twilight Hermit Erder, but Hermes himself. No, I'm not ignoring him. Well, hold on. We finished the chapter. Hold on, I need a minute. Klein is the kings of angels, while Paul is like sequence 3, bro. Of course, he one-tapped his ass. That sounds so wrong. Okay. Hermes used the faction behind Audrey. Oh. The Terror Club. To destroy the Garden of Eden psychological alchemists. He was sequence 3 and Klein was sequence 1. Klein used his mythical creature. Why not? I saw it was when he turned into Whirlpool of maggots. Creature forms as a high sequence pathway. He can kill anyone. No, he looked directly at him. I get that part. But like, read again? No. Unk yapping about anything today, huh? Hermes used the faction behind Audrey, Terror Club, to destroy the Garden of Eden psychology alchemists. You said use psychology alchemists to escape from Amon. Okay, sorry. That was a tongue twister. I meant they used the psychology alchemist to escape Adam. Sorry. Change back song, by the way. No, dude, it's just... Dude, I'm reading slow, too. I'm not even trying to read fast. That's the crazy part. But it's like, oh my god. We've hit a point in the series where there are so many names, abilities, and forms, and creatures and things that, like, you need to keep track of. That I'm starting to mix up names and things, you know? You guys can't blame me. Like, I've reached a point where I'm starting to mix things up. When I know I should be able to distinguish things, but, like, for some reason, I mix up names sometimes. I don't even remember it being this confusing. Are you confused, though, Harsh? It's more complicated. Oh, no. Oh, dude. Oh, shit. All right, let's fucking keep going. How much worse can it get? No, I'm not worse, but, like, there's no shot it gets more confusing, right? Long story short, we won that fight. No, it's using Terror Club to escape Adam, Psychology Alchemist, not using the Psychology Alchemist to escape Adam. That's what I thought. That's what I originally thought, because that when Klein was saying that, like, oh, using the faction behind Audrey. I didn't realize Klein saying that meant, like, oh, like, he's referencing the Terror Club. I thought he was referencing Psychology Alchemist. Continue just when you are certain that you understand. Okay. Chapter 1366. Chapter 1366 is called Setup. Wait, before we continue. And Hermes did that because Arihog said that Adam could be the ancient sun god, while he could be someone else. I can tell you who Arihog is. It's not really a spoiler, but up to you. Is it explicitly stated in COI? Is that what you guys are talking about? If it's explained COI, we can wait. We can wait. Should I know who Arihog is? I'm not even going to find out who's Arihog. Unless it's, like, explicitly stated in COI. Yes? Okay, I'll wait. We'll wait. If it's brought up in COI, we will get to that bridge. Retracting his gaze, Klein cast his gaze at the beyonder characteristics that Polydiralu's body had produced. It was formed from the mist, seemingly an unreal grayish-white brain from Dream. Arihog. It's very obvious, but explicitly stated. And it's okay. Dude, very obvious is very different between you and me. I can help you understand the mind games and why characters do that, but yes, it's explicit in COI. Okay, I'll wait. Sorry. Let me try and digest it first. He believed that the Garden of Eden was the safest place, so he placed his true body here. All activities in the outside world are just as many different identities. Who would have known that Hermes, who was supposed to be a defensive barrier, had abandoned this place? If a real angel were guarding the Garden of Eden had fully utilized the uniquenesses of this mind city, I wouldn't be able to so easily deceive the rules and successfully infiltrate it. As Klein thought to himself, he'd randomly made a wish to accelerate the beyond characteristics formation and condensation. He snapped his fingers and fulfilled his wish. Following that, he picked up the Dream Weaver beyond characteristics and something that could be used as the supplementary material. He took off the pride mask on his face and left the Garden of Eden. As he left, the remaining parts of the city collapsed and merged into the boundless sea of the collective subconscious. From that point onwards, the legend of the Garden of Eden would emerge, and many dreams, eventually drawn out by some artists or fabricated into widespread stories, and all the stories would come to consensus. The Garden of Eden was eventually destroyed. Returning to the Hall family managed veranda, Klein looked at Miss Justice, who had already composed herself, and handed over the Dreamweaver beyond the characteristics that corresponded to the ingredients, and the potion formula he had seen from the second blasphemy slate. Before Audrey could say anything, he said in a deep voice, "You can go back on your words," before officially advancing. Audrey received Mr. World's gift and nodded silently, indicating that she would seriously consider it. Wearing the exquisite straw hat, she watched German Sparrow turn around and walk to the edge of the veranda, disappearing step by step. Wait, POV change? What the fuck did I miss? Did I skip something? Did I skip a page? Okay, let me just read from here since we're changing music. Before Audrey could say anything, he said in a deep voice, "You can go back on your word," before officially advancing. Audrey received Mr. World's gift and nodded silently, indicating that she would seriously consider it. Wearing the exquisite straw hat, she watched German Sparrow turn around and walk to the edge of the veranda, disappearing step by step. After removing his traces and concealing the clues, Klein cleverly used grafting and the uniquenesses of Sapphire Castle to return to Backlund, appearing in front of the Judgment Shio, who was on holiday. The MI9 colonel, who was munching on an apple, immediately put down the food in her hands. As she wiped her mouth with a tissue, she stood up. "What's the matter?" She cautiously didn't address him as Mr. World, nor did she call him German Sparrow. Klein nodded slightly and said, "Mr. Full got me to ask if you wish to obtain the potion formula beyond her characteristics and supplementary ingredients for Sequence 4 Imperative Mage." She'll frowned slightly, not feeling any joy. She asked solemnly, "Then what's the price?" Klein nodded approvingly. "The apocalypse is coming. Many changes are beginning to happen, and Mr. Full has prophesied some matters. When the time comes, it's very likely that he will enter a period of slumber again, and his left-hand man, I'm unable to escape from the same fate. The price you need to pay is that when such a situation really appears, follow the revelation left behind by Mr. Full doing something that might be dangerous or simple. It might be an attempt that will take a long while or just a short moment so as to awaken Mr. Full." As the Kings of Angels cheers the owners of her castle, Klein had long been able to make certain levels of prophecies. Recently, he had seen some blurry visions of inspiration. Therefore, without any solid plan, he consciously started putting in place various agreements. Right now, I'm a real charlatan. He lampooned. It's been a while since we've seen that. Right now, I'm a real charlatan. He lampooned to himself and thought. Before Shio could speak, he added, "You can choose to decline. You are not the only person chosen." Shio believed we should lower the volume down a bit. That's what she believes. Shio believed that Mr. World wouldn't use sarcasm when it came to such situations. She didn't immediately answer it or seriously consider the matter. With the pending apocalypse, she felt that she would have rejected the offer. Although a demigod was powerful and terrifying, being able to rule a battlefield and control the fates of others, and was a creature that truly possessed godhood, becoming a Sequence 4 wasn't a matter that was urgent for her. As a Sequence 5 disciplinary paladin, she was able to ensure that she completed most of the missions as a colonel of MI9 with her own capabilities. With her salary and additional income, she could maintain a very decent life for her family. Even if she were to encounter danger, she could obtain sufficient aid from the official factions. Furthermore, she could make preparations by getting layman's travels in advance and ask her friends, forced to protect her in secret. In addition, she had investigated the cause of her father's death that fulfilled her wish to restore his honor. Therefore, no matter what, she didn't have to pay the huge price to become a Sequence 4 Beyonders. Besides, it wasn't impossible for her to get an opportunity from MI9. Of course, Shio had no idea how much longer until this would happen in the future. Be it Mr. Fool's warnings or the various prophecies I deliberately gathered using my job, it clearly or vaguely points out that the apocalypse is coming. There are only 16 years left. Shio subconsciously turned her body and looked at the second floor. Under my present living conditions, Mom will definitely be able to live for another 16 years. At that time, she wouldn't be too old. Furthermore, Mr. Moon had provided all kinds of medicine to maintain her health. 16 years later, Rio would be a young man in his prime. At the peak of his career, Force might already become a Sequence 3 Beyonder, and in order to deal with the apocalypse and seek hope, she would be busy running around. But I wouldn't be of much help. Shio slowly retracted her gaze as she fell silent. Then she looked at the world, grim and spiral, and nodded solemnly. Okay. You can set up the ritual at any time and make a wish to Mr. Fool. He will fulfill your wish. Klein didn't waste any time and gave a simple explanation. His imperative mage, Beyonder characteristic, and potion formula were all obtained for the new Moon City sacrifice. Of course, he had also bestowed his believers with a seal artifact, General of the People's Eye, in exchange. After Shio made her decision, she stopped worrying about the matter and said, Wendell apparently went to Utopia, but strangely, he returned the very night and didn't go to court to testify. That makes him puzzled and worried. Tell him that there's no need to worry about this matter anymore. All the people of Utopia were buried in a natural disaster. With that said, Klein turned and walked into the spirit world. In the outskirts of Backland, East Borough, and Cemetery, Klein suddenly looked at the niches filled with urns and ashes, and didn't look away for a long time. After a while, she slowly walked under a tree shade. He took out the historical projection and adventurous harmonica and blew it. With 4 blonde, red-eyed heads and dressed in a dark and complicated long dress, Renette Tanker immediately walked out of the void. Without waiting for Miss Messenger to speak, Klein asked, the various churches are preparing to besiege the Roskull Thought and planned on joining forces with you. Is there anything I can help you with? He had learned of this matter from Leonard and Emlyn. What? Renette Tanker's 4 blonde red eyes head said, there's nothing for now. Talk after locking on target. That is to say, with the interference in divination and prophecies, the protection from the outer deities like the Mother Tree of Desire, Primordial Moon, as well as the Kings of Angels like the Chain God of the Roskull Thought demigods aren't that easy to find. They need a certain amount of time to employ various strategies. That's right. Even a Rhodes wouldn't dare spy on them under such circumstances. Perhaps I can summon a historical void projection. Klein thought for a moment and said, if there are items directly related to them, using them as a medium, I can lock onto the corresponding target. When the time came, he could use Sephira Castle power to penetrate the shield. Alright, Renette Tanker's 4 blonde redheads bobbed up and down at the same time. With nothing left to discuss, he planned on letting Miss Messenger return. He had originally intended to jointly ask, do I need to pay for the summoning this time? His spiritual perception suddenly stirred as he fell silent. A few seconds later, he took out a gold coin from Sephira Castle. This was one of the 5 gold coins that had been tainted by Sephira Castle's aura. The payment this time, Klein handed over the gold coin with a smile. No need this time. After Renette Tanker's 2 blonde red-eye heads said that, the remaining 2 didn't say anything. She had powerful spiritual perception capabilities that appeared as though she had sensed something. In the next second, one of the 2 blonde red-eye heads that didn't open its mouth rose and bit on its gold coin at Klein's fingertip. Alright, Klein retracted his hand and said with a smile. Then he casually asked, is Miss Sharon and Merrick still in Backland? Yes, Miss Messenger informed Klein about her students' addresses. In a house, Merrick sat at a long table and skillfully played cards with zombies. And we went back to season 2. Volume 2. Suddenly, Sherlock Moriarty appeared on an empty chair. He put down his hat and took the covered cards from his zombie without any hesitation. Merrick looked up at him, his lips moved, but he didn't open them in the end. He let the zombie in charge of the corruptier duties continue to hand out the cards. Just like that, Klein joined them. He played a few rounds, winning and losing at times. In the corner of Sharon, who was wearing a black regal dress and a small and delicate bonnet, appeared at some point in time. She held her face with one hand and quietly watched the game. After playing for about 2 hours, Klein stood up and formally bowed to Miss Sharon and Merrick. Then he chuckled, put on his hat, walked towards the door, and disappeared. That's it? What the fuck? That's all we got with them? We didn't get more? Deep in the Spur world, Klein, who had just finished a course of 3 treatments, appeared outside of Cauldron City. Alright. Next chapter. I really feel like that's his last lampoon. I don't think he's lampooning after that. Did you notice we get very few thoughts of Klein, but a lot from people he's meeting this chapter? Because he doesn't have much humanity left. From Volume 1 lampooning to here. Yes, that's what it is. There's a lampooning count on the wiki for each volume, and you can see it very clearly go down through time. Oh, it's less and less and less. Damn, as he slowly advances and loses a piece of his humanity, he starts lampooning less and less. Holy shit. Because the one thing I noticed, he does not gush over money anymore. He doesn't like, oh, my money. He doesn't care anymore. That's the one thing I noticed. He does not even he has not mentioned the word money once. He has not talked about a single solely bill in who knows how long. He doesn't talk about money or food either. Oh, I didn't realize the food part. Oh, shit. And him being from the foodaholic empire, he would love food. I never noticed that. Oh, shit. I never noticed that part. Oh, good insight. I didn't actually catch that. Desi Pie? Yeah. Oh, wow. That's true. Even fucking Audrey's like, oh, his favorite Desi Pie. He don't even talk about food anymore. I didn't even realize that. Damn, man. It's almost over. Chapter 1367. Oh, Ellie got mad. She's kind of moody. It's okay. Chapter 1367 is called Distributary. As he didn't know what state Amon was in right now, Klein didn't dare delay. After his mental problems were resolved, he immediately came to Cauldron City and prepared to obtain the river water of the River of the Eternal Darkness. And because it involved a Sephira, he could only vaguely see some visions when using divination or making a prophecy. He couldn't accurately make a judgment. After surveying the area, Klein raised his hand to summon the historical void projection from a few minutes ago, allowing his true body to return to Sephira Castle. His consciousness then shifted to the projection, making it corporeal. Following that, Klein grabbed the void again and pulled out of the Staff of Stars from the historical projection. To be honest, after being able to use most of the Beyond powers below Sequence 0 of the Apprentice pathway through Sephira Castle, Klein no longer needed a grade sealed artifact like the Staff of Stars. What? He could basically replicate whatever mystical effect it had without the negative effects. I'm sorry, he doesn't need Staff of Stars anymore? However, he already felt that an angel still had to possess a close combat weapon because it was impossible to fall into a region that nullified beyond powers at some point in time. In the mysterious world, this was definitely something that could happen, be it the law of restrictions from the Arbor pathway or the beyond effects of a particular outer deity. It was possible to achieve similar effects. Under such circumstances, if he picked up a hard staff that came with a passive effect and directly smashed it in the enemy's head, it would prove to be rather effective. As a Kings of Angels of the Seer pathway, making preparations in all aspects was instinct. After weighing the Staff of Stars and pressing down on his top hat, Klein took out the golden bird-shaped accessory. Oh, the uniqueness. The golden bird-shaped accessory from Seraph Castle and placed it in his left breast pocket. That's the def uniqueness, right? The bird brooch? Then he took a step in the eternal Cauldron City and the divine kingdom of the ancient deaf Phoenix ancestor Gregorus. The first thing that entered his vision was a huge bottomless pit. All sorts of strange buildings circled the deep pit and extended downwards in circles, forming a grand city that was beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Some of the buildings were standalone houses that stood atop pale white stone pillars, while others were huge rectangular coffins. There were no windows, and the doors were on the roofs. Some of them were just tombs with gravestones at the entrance, while others were constructed from all kinds of bones, making them seem rather messy. The closer to the bottom of the pit, the more intact the buildings were. The closer they got to the top, the more they collapsed, filling the decay and the ruin time. With just a glance, Klein made a faint, grayish white fog appear around him. He directly used Sephira Castle status to resist the laws of Cauldron City, which turned all living beings into the dead. To him, becoming a dead person wasn't a negative effect, but he didn't like the cold and indifferent feeling. The grayish white tide that rose previously reacted. Klein, who was wearing a top hat and a trench coat while carrying the staff, nodded and thought. With one step, he stepped deep into Cauldron City, which would be seen with the naked eye. This time, he used the Marauder pathway beyond the pathway to steal the distance of his perception so as to avoid being entangled with the various monsters that were active in the mysterious city. This wasn't something he was afraid of. The one who should be afraid were the monsters. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't wish to waste time, he wouldn't have minded taking the opportunity to gather a batch of marionettes to make up for the losses caused by the destruction of Utopia. Apart from this reason, Klein was still cautious about something else. Cauldron City was a city of the dead. It was very likely that it was the deepest depths of the city, floor of the River of the Eternal Darkness, And in the essence, marionettes were already dead, so once they approached anywhere close to the bottom, there was a possibility of a mutation. Venturing deeper one step at a time, Klein realized that he had thought too much. None of the monsters hidden in the strange city dared to appear. The aura of Sephira Castle allowed their instinctual desire to live to overcome their inclinations of madness and their habits of hunting. They're like, leave this man alone. The deeper he went, the quieter his surroundings became. The strange buildings remained intact, but they seemed to be dead for years. Even their auras were cold, gloomy deceit. It's the same as looking at the black and white film. If I didn't hear my breathing and heartbeat, I wouldn't suspect that I was deaf. Klein coughed lightly and used his grumbling to resist the silence of death. His intuition told him that once he got used to the environment, his body and mind would become still and silent. Then he would truly die in the full meaning of the word. The closer he got to the ground, the stronger the feeling became. As he kept stealing distance, Klein proceeded forward with a long time before finally seeing the bottom of the pit. No, this wasn't the true base of the pit. It was just a huge black palace that stood in the way. The palace was propped up by columns. There were all kinds of bones and different corpses, pieces embedded in it. Some of the parts of the palace were even covered in blood. They belonged to different races. Klein stared at it for a few seconds without hesitation. He carried the Step of Stars and entered the palace through the open door. I feel like we're having a music change right now, right? On both sides of the hall, with different types of coffins and different colors, they sat there silently as they had already been weathered by the death. As Klein entered, there was a sudden noise coming from inside the coffins. It sounded like a rusted joint opening. The grayish-white fog around Klein thickened again as all the coffins suddenly quieted down. Ignoring them, Klein walked to the depths of the hall. There was a grayish-white stone staircase descending with a huge stone monument erected at the entrance. At the top of the stone monument stood a long and slender statue that resembled a giant bird made of bronze. Its wings had all kinds of pale and white symbols. Under the bronze bird-shaped statue, the surface of the stone monument was written in text that originated from the language of the dead. Their shapes were all different, looking like simplified birds or cold snakes that looked different. They formed a few indistinct words. Even deities cannot escape death. Imprisonment, even in death. Is this a warning to all living beings who come to Cauldron City to not go down the stairs? It directly leads to the river of eternal darkness. Both sides of Distributary. Klein's thoughts raced as he carefully read the words of the stone monument. From his point of view, this meant that even if a Sequence Zero true deity were to approach the river of eternal darkness, they would be trapped there and unable to escape. And even if they were to die, they would still be imprisoned by this abstract river, this Sephira. Although they wouldn't dissipate, they wouldn't be able to escape. From the looks of it, it's just like the Chaos Sea. Without any Sephiroth protection, merely approaching the river of eternal darkness will result in a terrifying mutation. So this Sephiroth results in a terrifying mutation? Klein retracted his gaze and tidied up the golden bird-shaped accessory attached to his breast pocket. He walked past the bronze statue's stone monument and walked down the grayish-white staircase. He didn't steal the distance again, to prevent himself from slamming headfirst into danger. In a dark, silent, and cold environment, the golden bird-shaped accessory in front of Klein's chest realized a pale white glow illuminating a small area. It was like a tiny lifeboat struggling in the waves of death. After descending for an unknown period of time, the aura of Sephira Castle around him expanded out of reflex and became extremely thick, like a grayish-white cocoon. Oh, you don't say. At the same time, Klein turned his head slightly and heard a faint, illusory whooshing sound. This seemed to indicate that a dark river was slowly flowing deep underground not far from him. And the next second, Klein looked down at his feet. At some point in time, there was a dark stream of incorporeal water surging out from somewhere. Even light couldn't exist on the surface. This is different from what I saw last time. Klein frowned slightly. Back when he came to Cauldron City to hunt the Spirit World Plunderer, he had caused a certain change, causing large amounts of grayish-white illusionary tidal water to surge up from the bottom of the pit. Back when he came to Cauldron City to hunt the Spirit World Plunderer, wow, that was a while ago. That was a cool minute ago. Wow. Back when he came to Cauldron City to hunt the Spirit World Plunderer, he had caused a certain change, causing large amounts of grayish-white illusionary tidal water to surge up the bottom of the pit. I remember that. The colors that he saw at the times were completely different. Just as Klein's thoughts raced at the bottom of the stone staircase, where the dark tide surged over, a thin grayish-white fog spread up. Together with illusionary liquid, it expanded into a grayish-white liquid that was more mist-like. When the water reached Klein's feet, it silently shrank back as though it constantly embedded up and down in a particular frequency. This faint, grayish-white fog is a little familiar. Klein's expression turned solemn. After pausing for a few seconds, he continued down. This time, the rising illusionary tide drowned him, causing his body to turn light, causing his emotions to quickly turn cold, and his thoughts to gradually weaken. So he's being affected by it. If not for the protection of Sephiric Castle's aura around him, Klein suspected that he would have passively fused with the tides without being able to resist. Following that, the grayish-white cocoon rose and bobbled up and down in the water before slowly reaching the end of the staircase. At the end was a void. Amidst the emptiness flowed a straight, wide, illusory, colorless, dark river. So that's the river. This river was so blurry that it was different to see clearly. This was because its surroundings were covered with a swath of grayish white-like thin layer of fog. Indeed, Klein couldn't help but mutter when he saw that. He was no stranger to this kind of fog. He had seen it behind the door in Bansi ruins before. He had seen it in the easternmost of the end of the Forsaken Lands of the Gods before, as well as beneath Sephiric Castle. And unlike other places, there was a portion of the water from the River of Eternal Darkness that penetrated the grayish-white fog. Oh shit! Fusing! And fused to some extent with the latter, changing colors between dark black and pale white. The river water here kept swirling, so it's like they're like interweaving. The river water here extended, swirling up before falling down like a stream that was running through the illusory darkness. On both sides of the distributary stood huge and pale white stone pillars. Boss fight music? Why boss fight music? At this moment, between the stone pillars on the banks of the distributary, countless blurry, translucent figures were pacing back and forth, and slowly but unnecessarily. Among them, the most eye-catching was a seemingly lost figure that would occasionally enter into the depths of the distributary before turning around. Yet it didn't seem like it could leave the river. It was huge, similar to the stone pillars around it. It had a heavy black robe draped over it, and from its side profile, it looked very old. Suddenly, it turned its head and looked at him. Its face had obvious southern continent characteristics, but southern continent? Oh, fuck you. Wait. I better not read bronze skin. If it's bronze skin, we know who it is. Its face had obvious southern continent characteristics, but it had already... I don't want to read the bottom. But it had already rotted while white feathers stained with pale yellow oil grew out. Klein knew him, and he was Mr. Ezek's father. The death of the Fourth Epoch, Emperor of the Underworld... Emperor of the Underworld Cylinder. Oh, shit. Alright, let's fucking go, dude. Death Imprint. Chapter 1368 is called Death Imprint. Death Cylinder, who was pacing around the river of eternal darkness, looked at Klein, who was enveloped in the grayish-white cocoon. His eyes had a pale white flames that were about to be extinguished, instantly reflecting the golden bird-shaped accessory on Klein's chest. In the next second, a deep roar... Oh, the same white flame that Ezek's messengers have. The same white flame. I caught that. I see the similarities. At the next second, a deep roar came from his rotting mouth, reverberating above the river, causing the entirety of the Cauldron City to visibly shake. The distributary... Oh my god, I cannot read. The distributary that occasionally rose up or plunged down, something dark and something pale white, reached the end of the stone staircase with the rising of the tides, surging towards Klein. But he's still enveloped by, like, the white cocoon, right? During this process, the illusory tide fused with the grayish-white fog, creating a similar color. The grayish-white torrent slammed into Klein's body repeatedly, but it failed to destroy the cocoon around him. Death Cylinder, rotten body, took steps to the edge of the distributary, but he couldn't escape no matter what. All he could do was stand there and roar wildly. So he's just screaming at him. Okay. Klein's gaze swept past him as he looked at the blurry figure loitering around his banks. One of them had already swept to the center of the distributary by the surging tides. They couldn't help but sing to both the rivers melting like ice. The remaining ones didn't show any fear as they maintained their blank and lost state. Moving back and forth endlessly, at a glance, Klein saw the many familiar figures. They were the same person as Ezek Eggers, with his bronze skin and his soft facial features. The same person? At a glance, Klein saw many familiar figures. They were the same person as Ezek Eggers, with his bronze skin and soft facial features. The dev console seemed to have disassociated into multiple cells. They constantly paced between the pale white stone pillar on both sides of the river of eternal darkness. This, as Klein's heart stirred, his right leg suddenly turned cold. He subconsciously lowered his head and saw a pale white hand. The palm penetrated the grayish-white cocoon and grabbed his calf. As the owner of the palm floated in the surging torrents like water ghosts as it attempted to pull Klein into the depths of the water. Its attack could actually ignore the aura of Sephira Castle. He had his black hair and brown eyes. His facial features were ordinary, and he had a scholarly air. Klein Moretti. The water ghost was Klein Moretti. Like OG Klein Moretti? And the next second, Klein's left leg, right shoulder, and left arm were grabbed by different pale white hands. This made him feel cold all over his body. Spirit body seemed to freeze. He couldn't even use all his beyonder powers. It was impossible to resist. The three pale white hands belonged to different blurry figures, while different blurry figures all had the same face, Klein Moretti's face. Under the pull of the four water ghosts, Klein's body gradually separated from the grayish-white cocoon and sank into the torrent. His body became colder and colder, and his thoughts gradually fell into silence. His vision gradually darkened, and eventually there was only dark, embedding waves. Above the great fog in the ancient palace, Klein's consciousness returned to his original body. Then, without any hesitation, he extended his palm and used the power of Sephira Castle to steal an item from the ladder through his connection with the historical projection. A golden beam of light flashed as Klein held the golden bird-shaped accessory. At the same time, he stopped maintaining the historical void projection. The drowning figure appeared from the eternal night flood. It could ignore the aura of Sephira Castle, which means that those four figures truly aren't me. But why would I be trapped in the stream of the river of eternal darkness, pacing about endlessly? Four figures. What does that mean, four figures? Four steps counterclockwise? Klein's expression was solemn as he gently tapped the edge of the long mall table. He gained some inspiration amidst the tapping. The four souls and death corresponded to the reality that he had died 4 times and had revived 4 times. Oh, the times he died. Of course, after becoming an attendant of the mysteries, the 4 resurrections opportunities had been reset again. Every time I die, regardless of whether I successfully revive or not, I will leave an imprint in the river of eternal darkness. I died 4 times, so there are 4 figures wandering the banks of the river of eternal darkness. Oh. Klein roughly grasped the crux of it before he sounded inwardly. The river of eternal darkness is indeed a Sephira. As expected, the symbol of death, repose, destination, and endpoint and darkness. This is what the goddesses meant when she pointed out that all encounter different kinds of danger. When the historical projection was drowned, I suffered some mental damage. If my mental state was unstable, I might have suffered some terrible consequences by now. Based on the deduction, Klein had a brand new understanding of the many Zik figures and the wandering death. Oh, every single time he's fucking died. Klein had a brand new understanding of the many Zik figures wandering about and the wandering death cylinder. They were the corresponding imprints of death. Mr. Zik had indeed died many times in the process of searching for his memories, but he comes back to life every time. According to the present situation, although an undying doesn't die, it leaves behind a lot of hidden dangers. Once the number of deaths reaches a certain level, their true bodies might be attracted to the river of eternal darkness. One day ends up as one of the figures that wander around there for an eternity. Only Cylinder's figure is there. This means that after accommodating the uniqueness, his death imprint also becomes unique. As Klein's thoughts raced through his mind, he became worried about Mr. Zik's state of survival. And there were 2 solutions to resolve this problem. One was to make a Zik soul whole and make him stop repeating his resurrection. That's what I thought we should have done. And make him stop repeating his resurrection process. And second, to help the Evernight Goddess become a great old one and gain control of the river of eternal darkness. Perhaps this is another binary choice. When the goddess becomes a great old one, there's no need for her to make use of half of Mr. Zik's soul again. Klein reined his thoughts and focused his attention on his goal. He had entered the depths of Cauldron City not to resolve the death imprint of Death's Slinger and destroyed any chances of him reviving instead. He was here to retrieve the river water from the river of eternal darkness. Clearly, the illusionary tide's water that flows out of the river doesn't work. It's only an aura that flows out, not the river water itself. Also, water that has fused with the grayish-white fog won't do either. It's not pure enough, so it wouldn't be able to accomplish the desired effects. From the looks of it, only when the Distributary turns back into its depths and dark state can I get the water. Huh. There's definitely no way to get it from the main river. The grayish-white fog is definitely a solid barrier. Klein quickly formulated a plan based on his analysis. That was to avoid going close to the river eternal darkness and not attract the attention of Death Salinger. He would wait for the Distributary waters to recede and turn dark before he headed over, before allowing the 4 Death Imprints to drag his historical projection to the bottom of the river. During this process, the historical projection would seize the opportunity and use the golden bird-shaped accessory to scope the river water. Then he would return his consciousness back to Sephira Castle. Using the powers of theft as the close connection between the 2 items, he could take away the golden bird-shaped accessory. After considering the finer details to the procedure, Klein returned to Cauldron City and summoned his historical void projection. He repeated the previous process and soon returned to the stone tablet next to the giant bronze bird statue. He walked down the grayish-white stone steps, step by step. The aura of Sephira Castle around him gradually thickened, turning into a thin cocoon. It didn't take long before Klein arrived at the end of the staircase. He saw the river eternal darkness flowing into the void, the pale white columns on both banks and the countless blurry figures that lingered at the banks of the Distributary. This time he wasn't in a hurry to go forward. He left the staircase and waited patiently at the same spot from the Distributary waters to recede. The grayish-white colors faded and the water darkened. Right now, Klein's figure flashed as he stole the disturbance and appeared in Death Salinger's blind spot. Without any surprise, and his body sank into the river of eternal darkness, the pale white hands immediately penetrated the aura of Sephira Castle and grabbed his limbs. His 4 death imprints appeared around him, eager to drag him to the bottom of the river. Klein's head submerged under the death river water, making his body turn cold as his thoughts turned still. Before he completely lost his senses, the transparent and distorted maggots crawled out from Klein's neck. They quickly crawled to the side of the golden bird-shaped accessory, cluttered around it, and lifted it up, preparing to scoop the water of the river of eternal darkness. At that moment, a massive shadow appeared in the swirling, illusionary river in front of Klein. Shadow? It was a giant bird floating in the water. The bird brooch? It was a giant bird floating in the water, one that was completely submerged by the river of eternal darkness Distributary. The giant bird's surface was covered with white flames, and the feathers formed from mysterious patterns, but most of them had been melted away by the... I'm sorry, is it like OG Death? He was the only, like, bird-looking thing. Not Gregor, Phoenix ancestor? And then he had melted away. I'm trying to hide the bottom in case I said it. He had been melted away by the river eternal darkness. These exposed parts were pitch black and rotted with pale yellow pus on the surface. The giant bird's eye, that was the sunbrooch thing manifested, like in that one volume finale. The giant bird's eye I just read it. Fuck. The giant bird's eyes seemed to be made of bronze, and layers of illusion doors were hidden within. Phoenix ancestor Gregorans, the ancient dev who had opened up the underworld. In front of Gregor's eyes, a bronze beam burst out, enveloping golden bird-shaped accessory in Klein's historical projection in a bid to drag them over together. After weighing his current situation, Klein instantly made a decision and gave up an attempt of sculpting the river water. His consciousness immediately returned to Sephira Castle, and he stole the golden bird-shaped accessory. His historical projection dissipated. There's danger in the water too. The ancient god Phoenix, ancestor Gregorus, has completely sunk into the river of eternal darkness. If the goddess can truly accommodate the uniqueness of the death pathway, and if Salinger can't use the opportunity to revive in his body, he should also sink into the water like Gregorus, and the death imprint of Gregorus will melt further. Klein silently sighed as he modified the plan. Am I reading his name wrong? Gregor? Is it not Gregorus? Gregrace? Fuck is it?
And the death imprint of Gregrace will melt further.
Gregrace? What kind of name is that? Gregrace? It's Gregrace?
And the death imprint of Gregrace will melt.
Gregrace? Gregorus sounds badass. It's Gregrace? Yeah? Gregrace will melt further. Klein silently sighed as he modified the plan. Following that, he summoned the historical void projection and returned to the end of the stairs. After waiting for a while, Death Salinger turned around and slowly walked towards the bank. Klein suddenly stole the distance and appeared in front of him. At the next second, Salinger let out a low roar and rapidly increased the flow of this Distributary. At the same time, Klein was grabbed by his death's imprints and forcibly dragged to the bottom of the river. What the fuck, he got dragged to the bottom? He sensed that the Phoenix ancestor Gregor's, like before, Gregor's bronze eyes lit up. However, whatever envelops this light wasn't Klein and the golden bird-shaped accessory, but Death's cylinder crafting. Seizing the brief opportunity and worms the spirits crawling out from Klein's historical projection and lifted the golden bird-shaped accessory. The bronze eyes of the accessory also released a beam of light, scooping up a tiny portion of the river of water. At the next moment, Klein's consciousness returned to Severe Castle. He raised his hand and retrieved the accessory. Phew, I'm finally done. Looking at the golden bird-shaped accessory in his hand, he slowly exhaled. As the owner of Sephira Castle, the mission wasn't too difficult. As long as he didn't rashly enter with the main body, he could rely on repeated failures to accommodate the experience and figure out the situation. And if it wasn't for the fact that there were two deaths in the Distributary of the River of Eternal Darkness, one wandering and the other sinking, Klein wouldn't have failed twice. Chapter 1369 is called Pomp. Pomp. Okay. After weighing the bird-shaped golden accessory in his hand, Klein quickly returned to the real world. He casually picked an empty plot in land and put up an altar to hold a sacrificial ritual. With regarding the other secrets of the hidden in Cauldron City, as well as the loitering figures around the River of Eternal Darkness, he temporarily didn't have any thoughts of starting a deeper exploration of it. This was because he still had more important matters to prepare for. He also had a key question to ask Evernight Goddess. Soon he held the ritual and allowed the candlelight and spirituality materials to fuse together, forming a door of sacrifice and bestowment. Without any hesitation, Klein placed the bird-shaped gold accessory into the wind, allowing it to slowly pass through the mysterious door and vanish into the endless darkness. At the next second, he sharply noticed that he had been dragged into a dream. In the center of the dreamscape was a Gothic palace that seemed to blend with the darkness around it. Its details were exquisite, its color dim, but it was still gorgeous. Klein passed through the bushes of night vanilla and slumber flowers before stepping into the palace. In the deepest part of the hall, the Evernight Goddess was sitting. She's just sitting, chilling there. She's looking like a fucking Elden Ring boss over here. The Evernight Goddess was sitting on an ancient high-back chair. She was still wearing the layered black dress that didn't seem complicated. The sparkling spots in the dress reflected the dome of the walls, and the pillars of the palace created a quiet and dreamy starry sky. Ever Mommy Ra. The Evernight Goddess, whose face seemed to be covered in layers of fishnet veils, held the bird-shaped gold accessory and slowly stood up. She walked down the stairs to Klein, her voice sounding like a lullaby. I love the way she speaks, man. It's like a lullaby. So trippy, dude. What do you have to ask? Klein politely took off his top hat and bowed slightly. I want to know if the grayish white fog that envelops the River of Eternal Darkness has something to do with the Lord of the Mysteries. That was also celestial worthy of heaven and earth. Wait, yes, same people. I want to know if the grayish white fog that envelops the River of Eternal Darkness has something to do with that Lord of the Mysteries. That was also the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. Although he couldn't see the Evernight Goddess's face clearly, Klein felt like she was smiling when he looked straight at her. Yes. Something prepare? Prepare for brain melting? No, you're not. You're kidding me. Really? Okay, guys, just prematurely get the explanations ready. I'm reading slow right now. I'm doing good. I've been understanding everything in the River of Eternal Darkness. The last part, Garden of Eden, that part had me a little confused, but I'm getting it. Lord dump moment. All right, guys, start getting the explanations ready. Just prematurely get it ready. But I'm reading slow. One earbud is off, so I'm like, I can slightly hear the music, but it's not over. I'm not hearing the music more than I'm hearing my own voice. Unlimited void out plot. Here we go. Yes. Furthermore, not only is the River of Eternal Darkness enveloped by the grayish white fog, but the city behind Bansi Harbor and... What? This is already getting too big. Hold up. We escalated too quickly. Yes, furthermore, not only is the River of Eternal Darkness enveloped by the grayish white fog, but the city behind Bansi Harbor and the entire western continent is enveloped by the same grayish white fog. Bruh. Klein hesitated for a moment before saying, "This is a kind of seal." The Evernight Goddess dream projection nodded. That's right. Apart from Sephira Castle and the Chaos Sea, all other Sephiroth were sealed in the western continent. That's right. apart from Sephira Castle and the Chaos Sea. All other Sephiroths were sealed within the Western continent by that mysterious Lord of the Mysteries. River of Eternal Darkness. So how is it that we're interacting with the River of Eternal Darkness if it was sealed beyond the Western continent? What am I missing here? River of Eternal Darkness, Broad Hive, City Calamity, Tenebrous World, Nation Disorder, Knowledge More, and Key of Light have all been sealed in the Western continent by the Celestial Worthy. No, I'm hanging in there. It's just the Distributary. Okay, it'll be explained. This is the City of Calamity affecting the city. Wait, this is the City of Calamity affecting the city in the real world as well as Bansi. Then to a certain extent, it has caused certain changes. Klein was enlightened and amazed. Back when he saw the scene behind the door in Bansi, he had suspected that it had something to do with the Western continent. Furthermore, according to the clue that Bansi was the headquarters of the Red Angel Medici family, he suspected that behind the door was a reflection of Sephira, the City of Calamity. After a moment of silence, Klein didn't conceal his feelings. He sighed and said, "The power of that Lord of the Mysteries far exceeds my imaginations." How could such a great old one, who is known as one of the pillars of the universe, silently perish? The Evernight goddess Dream Projection shook her head. It wasn't silent. Okay. From the clues that were available, he died together with the God Almighty of ancient times. That God Almighty corpse formed the first... Fucking shit. The Evernight goddess Dream Projection shook her head. It wasn't silent. And we're talking about the Lord of the Mysteries. That Lord of the Mysteries. From the clues that were available, he died together with the God Almighty of ancient times. That God Almighty's corpse formed the first blasphemy slate in the Chaos Sea, and beside it was the uniqueness of the Marauder pathway. In other words, in the middle of the first epoch, Lord of the Mysteries and God Almighty had a battle that was abnormally intense and didn't cause much of a stir. In the end, both perished. This can explain why the ancient sun god had the uniquenesses of a grazed uniqueness of the Marauder pathway when he walked out of the Chaos Sea. It was ripped off by an ancient God Almighty from the Lord of the Mysteries. Amidst his thoughts, Klein asked in puzzlement, why would they want to kill each other? They are both pillars and aren't from similar pathways. There shouldn't be any life and death conflicts that cannot be resolved. The Evernight goddess's Dream Projection said gently, convergence is an instinct. The higher the level, the stronger the instinct. That Lord of the Mysteries and God Almighty once of ancient times were unable to restrain themselves from converging together, becoming the embodiment of the entire universe, which is also the innate instincts of the original creator. The crazier one becomes, the stronger they become. And beyond cunning, powerful, terrifying, and filled with wisdom, there's such a side to the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. Klein thought for a moment and said, that Lord of the Mysteries and God Almighty of ancient times are in essence different sides of the original creator? Klein thought for a moment and said, that Lord of the Mysteries and the God Almighty of ancient times are in essence different sides of the original creator. Kind of how like Adam and the true creator are like two sides of the same individual that split. Like, is that how I'm interpreting it? Is that how I'm interpreting this, right? The Evernight goddess Dream's Projection said in a comforting voice, using the same existence but different personas as an analogy will be more accurate. Yes, okay, I'm following. Using the same existence but different personas as... Wait, what? Using the same existence but different personas as an analogy will be more accurate. Okay, that makes sense. The original creator was the maker of the universe. What the fuck? And also its destroyer. Okay? It is both the day and also the night because he's just okay. It's the light of holiness and also the descent of abyss. It is an amalgamation of all contradicting concepts and symbolism. And you're telling me the God Almighty and Lord of the Mysteries are two sides of like that original creator? It thinks it's kind of like Klein and German. No, I get it. So two personas, but like the same individual. Whoa. Remember the whole time we're like, man, what if fucking Klein is like a resurrected dude? And we're like, nah, that wouldn't happen. But the whole time they're like, CW was trying to like resurrect Klein, but then it's like there's like all this shit where like there's beings trying to resurrect and other people, and like yeah, it's kind of true. Like that kind of shit actually did end up happening. That's why he naturally had a tendency to be disassociative in a way that cannot be controlled. Once he splits, there will be a strong trend towards convergence. In a time more ancient than era we lived in our present lives, the original sleeping creator had naturally split into multiple personas. They were also in a state of slumber, but they began to use the authority of beyond characteristics they control to influence the world, making many preparations for the true disassociation when the original creator awakened. That's what I'm saying, man. When Klein was a seer, he used the gun, bro. Yes, book 1 shenanigans. Oh, I am a seer and can divine things. Let me use my gun. Blah! And that was it. And we're at this. Bro, this is like hard to follow, bro. I'm telling you, I miss the good old days when his seer abilities was using a fucking gun. Divine that gun will be effective. Holy shit, dude. The power scaling and the lore is just average Chinese weapon. That is crazy, bro. I got lightheaded saying that, dude. Wow, we've come a long way. Here, the most powerful and active ones were God Almighty and the Lord of the Mysteries. Oh, the most powerful ones. The most powerful and active ones were God Almighty and the Lord of the Mysteries. The latter had another honorific name in the Western continent. Wait, I don't want to accidentally read a name. In the early mid stages of the first epoch, they should have used different methods to grasp additional Sephiroths. This made their inclination to converge more intense, making it impossible for them to control themselves, and began taking actions against each other. According to the ancient sun gods research, the pillar of support is the highest level of stability one can achieve. If a great old one exceeds this limit, just accommodating an additional Sephiroth will lead to being controlled by the convergence instinct at an irreversible manner. No one knows the exact situation of the battle. Even the 7 lights of the spirit world do not know. We only know that from the fateful moment onwards, the 2 great old ones know that the pillar vanished completely. As for the other Sephiroths, other than the Chaos Sea, the Sephiroth Castle, they were sealed by Sephiroth Castle's powers in the Western continent. That was once a territory. Whoa. Confirmation? They were sealed by Sephiroth Castle's powers in the Western continent. That was once the territory ruled by the Lord of the Mysteries. So the Lord of the Mysteries' territory was the Western continent. This setup led to a problem. It was that before the reappearance of the Lord of the Mysteries, God Almighty, and before the removal and breaking of the Western continent seals, no Sequence Zero in this world could become a great old one to resist the outer deities. As the apocalypse approaches, this problem, bro. Wow. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of lore here. As the apocalypse approaches, this problem will force all the true deities to nurture a Lord of the Mysteries, God Almighty. And the former Lord of the Mysteries and God Almighty are very likely to awaken in their bodies. The lore is loring. This, therefore, the sealing of the... Therefore, the sealing of the other Sephiroths was done deliberately by the celestial worthy. Wait, what? The sealing of other Sephiroths was done deliberately by the celestial worthy, preventing the latter Sequence Zero true deities from Let me reread this again. Therefore, the sealing of other Sephiroths was done deliberately by the celestial worthy, preventing the later Sequence Zero true deities from deliberately avoiding this pathway, killing the chances of the birth of the new Lord of the Mysteries. Oh, because he was saving that position for himself? And as long as a new Lord... Oh, wait, right here. It says right here. Killing the chances of the birth of a new Lord of the Mysteries, ? And as long as a new Lord of the Mysteries is born, he has a high chance of being revived and completely awakening. Ah, so he sealed them for that reason, for the potential chance of reawakening and reviving. Isn't this too sinister? From a certain point of view, there's no need to be afraid of others knowing this arrangement. The more entities that know of it, the more they would be inclined to quickly support the growth of the Lord of the Mysteries, so as to prevent them from only having a few years towards the end to gain control of their corresponding Sephiroth. The more Klein thought about it, the more terrifying the celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings appeared. This made him sigh inwardly, as expected of a pillar that can make the genie fall into such a predicament to this day. I forgot about the genie. Klein immediately asked, then why didn't you support the growth of a Lord of the Mysteries in the fourth epoch? Who are we asking? Klein immediately asked, oh, he's asking Evernight this, right? He actually knew the answer to this question as time passed. The original creator's different personas, the celestial worthy of heaven and earth, and God Almighty, will have their wills constantly weakened. Wait. What was the question? Why didn't you support the growth of the Lord of the Mysteries in the fourth epoch? Because their wills constantly weakened. The closer they got to the apocalypse, the weaker the corresponding will became. This made those of the future be able to resist or suppress them and avoid losing themselves. This could be proven by the fact that Adam had waited until recently to advance to Visionary. The Evernight Goddess's dream projection revealed a smile. She's smiling through this? Back then, Amon and Bethel were unwilling. All of them wished to make all sorts of preparations, hoping to make an attempt when the apocalypse was approaching. As for Salinger, he had planned to use the River of Eternal Darkness to fuse with the Red Priest uniqueness to create a brand new Great Old One path. I'm sorry, he was trying to make a new pathway? As for Salinger, he planned to use the River of Eternal Darkness to fuse with the Red Priest uniqueness to create a brand new Great Old One path. Then he went mad. He wasn't able to resist the desire for converging the Twilight Evernight pathway. Death was also forced in such a circumstance. On one hand, the apocalypse was only 1,000 years or so away, and it came up quickly. And on the other hand, the River of Eternal Darkness had been sealed by the Celestial Worthy, a pillar. This prevented him from attempting to control it. It's too sinister, too much. Klein couldn't help but inwardly criticize Celestial Worthy. At this moment, the Evernight Goddess's dream projection continued. The seal on the western continent is gradually weakening with time. The Sephiroth will instinctively or consciously use their symbolism to corrode the uniqueness and high sequence beyond characteristics that land on them to influence the outside world. Like our world. Like outside of the bubble in the western continent. The first to seep out energy was the River of Eternal Darkness and the second epoch. It formed a distributary. Let me quickly. What is? I should Google definition of this shit. Distributary, a branch of a river that does not return to the mainstream after leaving it. Okay. It formed a distributary through Gregris. After that, in the fourth epoch, traces of more Sephiroth began to appear on the northern and southern. Yeah, I like Google search that. In the second epoch, it formed a distributary through Gregris. After that, in the fourth epoch, I figured it had something to do with a river, but that's as far as I got. After that, in the fourth epoch, traces of more Sephiroth began to appear on the northern continent and southern continents, and the islands over the 5 seas. This is an important factor hidden behind many of the anomalies in the fourth epoch. The Sephiroth had indirectly exacted their influences through the seal in the fourth epoch. It's no wonder Adam said that my understanding of the fourth epoch's history isn't deep enough. Yeah, no fucking shit, man. There's so much going on here. From the looks of it, in Bansi Harbor, and OG Klein thought he was a philosopher of history. Boy, was he wrong. He was specifically interested in the fourth epoch, right? It is no wonder Adam said my understanding of the fourth epoch's history isn't deep enough. Yeah, okay. From the looks of it, Bansi Harbor retained the elven customs not because it was an elven settlement, but also because of other factors. Klein thought for a few seconds before smiling. I roughly understand also, man. I roughly understand. Is that why you've been helping me all this while? Just like Klein, I also roughly understand. Oh my god. Pomp, this chapter should have been called Dump, bro, for fucking Lord Dump. Why is this chapter called Pomp? It should have been called Dump, man. This was a Lord Dump chapter. Klein and Izuki, same for real, for real. I roughly understand. Oh, I genuinely only roughly understand. I'm not even kidding you. I don't fully understand. I'm like Klein. I literally, factually, only roughly understand. No. I'm not even saying I fully understand. I roughly understand this. Elohim sealed the Lord of the Mysteries from way back in the day. Wait, before I read it. So Lord of the Mysteries from way back in the day sealed all 7 Sephiroths behind the Western continent. That's why that bubble is up. For the potential chance of him reviving. Elohim sealed the other Sephiroths on purpose so the gods will have to make a new Elohim. Oh, wait. I interpreted the whole thing wrong then. Elohim sealed the other Sephiroths on purpose so the gods will have to make a new Elohim to unseal them. And by doing so, he would revive. Oh, got it. Okay, so it was him reviving. It's just he has to create a new Elohim in order for the original Elohim to revive. The Celestial Worthy, right? Izugiki was better than I thought. Hey, Klein roughly understanding, so Izugiki understanding that he doesn't understand. Long story short. Long story short, I'm a fucking ass. I don't know what the fuck I just read. I gotta reread that whole fucking chapter. Oh my god. Holy Celestial Worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. Oh my goodness. Whew. We need to take a 5. The final 3 chapters. Chapter 1370. It's called, good, awesome. It's called Decisive. The Evernight Goddess's dream projection replied with a smile. If it's just to nurture a Lord of the Mysteries, I should be beating Anamon. At the very least, the chances of him succeeding is much higher than yours. Without waiting for Klein to ask any further, she continued with a voice of ethereal as a dream. The era that was buried in the past is a memory shared between us, because she's a transmigrator, and also the critical period in which our humanity was born, sprouted, and nourished. Even if I've had a long life, it still remains my fondest of memories. You have its imprints in you, so I'm more willing to help you. The love of the house extends even to the crows perching on its roof. Klein made a conclusion in the form of an idiom. At that moment, he recalled the words of Emperor Rizzo had written in his diary, home. In his wistful silence, oh, and home was written in their home language, right? In his wistful silence, the dream projection of Evernight Goddess switched to saying, when you're ready, you can go to the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range anytime. Of course, it's your freedom to choose. No one will force you, and no one can force you either. You can choose to stop at a certain stage and not become a great old one, nor allow the Lord of the Mysteries to awaken in your body. Then, at the last moment of the apocalypse, so when the apocalypse is here, you can bring the people and objects you want to protect and wander the other... What? And wander to other planets and other solar systems. I don't remember this. And wander other planets and other solar systems to avoid the attention of... I'm sorry, is COY on a different fucking solar system? To other planets and other solar systems to avoid the attention of the outer deities and create another civilization. Klein had long thought of this problem. After a moment of silence, he said, I'm not sure if Rizzo had said one thing. You can hide a moment, but you cannot hide forever. He was speaking in Jotun with Evernight Goddess, so it was a little odd with the translating to provide. Escaping was just a temporary strategy. It couldn't be used as a long-term plan. I didn't realize we were reading Interstellar this whole time. After a pause, Klein continued, although the universe is vast and without an end, the outer deities are clearly more familiar with it than we are. They're also stronger, directly representing a certain aspect of the universe is very different to avoid their pursuit. Besides, even if we succeed, peace will only last for some time. The recreated civilization will be destroyed in less than 1,000 years. When that happens, we won't even have the chance to become great old ones, never capable of any form of self-redemption. This is because if one wanted to successfully escape during the invasion of outer deities, they had to give up all the Sephiroth. Otherwise, they would definitely become the focus of their attention, let alone wandering the cosmos, even withstanding the first wave of attacks from unknown. The Evernight Goddess dream projection spoke slowly. Apart from the items ripped out from the outer deities, only taking away the uniquenesses and high sequence beyonders, the characteristics and other pathways might not necessarily garner the attention of the outer deities. They would have spent too much time searching. You also said that it's not necessarily the case. The outer deities should still have a certain desire for the uniquenesses and high sequences beyond their characteristics of similar pathways. This can help them approach the level of a pillar. Klein replied calmly, we can't place our hopes on their feelings. They aren't benevolent. The Evernight Goddess's dreams projection nodded and said, in this aspect, you're more and more aware of Rizzo. Of course, it's because he had yearned for the great old ones of the outer deities a little too late. She continued, you have another choice. Use Palas method to personalize, lower your level, and let Amon steal Sephira Castle. This way, you can live well as a Sequence 1 angel. You don't have to constantly worry that the Lord of the Mysteries will awaken in you. It won't be exhausting. In the Church of the Evernight Bible, there was a division of an angels and archangels. Klein had always guessed the latter reference to Sequence 1, and today he had finally obtained a confirmation. Of course, this was only the standing of one church, not necessarily the rest. After hearing the Evernight Goddess's works, Klein fell silent for a long time before asking, can Amon be trusted? The Evernight Goddess's dream projection said frankly, I can't give you a definite answer. Klein asked again, if the Lord of the Mysteries awakens in Amon's body, dude, if that actually happens, it's GG. Klein asked again, if the Lord of the Mysteries awakens in Amon's body, will he take back all the high sequence beyond characteristics of the Seer, Marauder, and Apprentice pathways? I don't know, the Evernight Goddess dream projection replied in the same tone. Klein fell silent again. After a while, wait, recording? Okay, we're good. After a while, he said, personally, I don't wish to become a great world one, but I can't let down and betray those existences who have placed their bets on me. They have more or less helped me. Once Amon becomes the Lord of the Mysteries, he will definitely help the ancient Sun God retrieve the uniquenesses of Sequence 1 beyond her characteristics from Lord of the Storms and God of Knowledge and Wisdom, causing their deaths. Besides, Amon is a reckless god. True, we gotta take him out. The Evernight Goddess's dream projection nodded slightly and said, your humanity has been maintained well. After making up his mind, Klein freed himself from his low spirit state. He smiled and said, if I had maintained my humanity and allowed the godhood to gain advantage, I would have also made a similar choice. That's because a godhood's instinct is convergence upon oneself. The Evernight Goddess's dream projection gently chuckled, make your preparations, meet Antigonus as soon as possible. Klein nodded and suddenly recalled something. He hurriedly asked, has Amon already used Mr. Door ritual to accommodate the uniquenesses of the Apprentice pathway? No shot, everything's been accommodated. All of it? The Evernight Goddess's dream projection slowly replied, if it were another existence, then definitely not. But if it's Amon, there's a 50% chance. He's like to take risks and seek thrills. He didn't say another word as he watched the Evernight Goddess's projection vanish before him as a dream gently collapsed. The altar that had yet to clear occupied his vision again, to him heading to the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range. To face Antigonus' family ancestor didn't require much preparation for him, because he's just ready, he's that strong. He would mainly rely on Sephira Castle to produce an avatar to steal the attendant of the mysteries beyond her characteristics, the one from Zartul, the one he hadn't digested yet, allowing his main body to be in a unique state that could accommodate the uniquenesses. As his mental state stabilized, even without Zartul's remnant mental imprint, Klein could still rely on his humanity, consciousness, and anchors to barely suppress the partial consciousness of the celestial worthy. However, before that, Klein's spiritual intuition told him that he needed to do something. After looking around, he tidied up the altar and dragged Dwayne Dantas out of the fog of history. Sitting at the table, Klein spread out a piece of paper and wrote a letter to Mr. Zik. As it hadn't been a while since he wrote the previous letter, there wasn't much content. He only mentioned the River of Eternal Darkness that was situated underground in Cauldron City, as well as the Death Imprint on both banks of the Distributary. He empathized the numerous Zik eggers he had seen, and his guesses. After holding the letters, Klein took out a Zik's copper whistle and blew at it. The skeleton messenger appeared at the size of a normal human. It knelt down on one knee and opened its palm. We've come a long way for the messenger to be at his level. After Klein handed the letter to it, and for him to kneel down, after Klein handed the letter, he took out a gold coin from Sephira Castle. This is a thank you for all the hard work you've done. If you can accept it, hand it to your master and let him decide. This gold coin was one of the transformed gold coins that had been tainted by the aura of Sephira Castle. He had already used one of them to pay Miss Messenger's fees and had lost one to Merrick when they played cards. Oh, I didn't realize that. So it was one of the ones. The skeleton messenger was stunned for nearly 5 seconds, but he didn't dare disobey Klein's words. He clasped the letter and the gold coin with his bony fingers. It disintegrated and fell to the ground like a waterfall before drilling into the ground. Following that, Klein took out another gold coin and placed it in his pocket. At the same time, he made the Worms of Spirit on duty in Sephira Castle to take a look at a certain Crimson Star, East Ballam in a cathedral belonging to the Evernight Goddess. As the first batch of demigods participated in the besieging of the Rose Skull of Thought. I'm sorry, are we already... We just cut to the fight? As the first batch of the demigods participating in the besieging of the Rose Skull of Thought, Leonardo Mitchell had already used a sealed artifact to reach the southern continent. I'm sorry, are we in it already? However, he had no progress for the time being. This is because the Rose Skull of Thought and demigods seemed to sense the danger in the air as they simultaneously hid themselves. This made Leonard have no choice but to wait patiently near to answer the call of any dispatches. While he had nothing to do, he wore his red gloves and entered the cathedral prayer hall. He did his daily prayer in a rather devout manner, and in a dark and serene environment, he seemed to fall asleep. After an unknown period of time, Leonard opened his eyes and stood up. He walked down the aisle and towards the door. At that moment, he saw a familiar figure. It was Klein Moretti, wearing a top hat and a formal suit with black hair and brown eyes. Leonard's pupils dilated as his brows pricked up. Klein, who was also praying, lowered his hand and stood up. He walked past him and slowly approached the altar. During this process, neither of them spoke, as if the other party was just a stranger. After reaching the donation box near the altar, Klein took out a gold coin. I feel like the gold coins are leading to something. After reaching the... I feel like when he's in sleep, these gold coins are going to help us in COI, maybe. During this process, neither of them spoke, as if the other party was just a stranger. After reaching the donation box near the altar, Klein took out a gold coin from his pocket and threw it with a serious expression. Then he changed directions and left the cathedral from another door. Leonard stood in the middle of the aisle and watched the scene with a puzzled look. He frowned slightly at this moment in his mind. Palaceros' slightly aged voice echoed. Find a chance to get that gold coin. Backlund in particular house, Will Ossington held a silver spoon and focused on digging at the pale green ice cream in front of him. Suddenly, he extended his left hand to block the side of the door. On the chair beside him, Dwayne Dante's figure instantly appeared and he gives him a gold coin. Suddenly, he extended his hand left hand to block the side of the door. On the chair beside him, Dwayne Dante's figure instantly appeared. I seem to have missed your birthday twice. Klein said a smile. This is a belated present. As he spoke, he took out a gold coin. I'm sorry. This has to be aiding it, because if these gold coins have the aura of Sephira Castle, this has to help him out in some way. This is a belated present. As he spoke, he took out a gold coin and pushed it to Will Ossington. This is a lucky gold coin for you. Will was stunned for 2 seconds before muttering, the gift celebrated my birthday was a lucky amulet. For a birthday gift, it was a lucky gold coin. You really don't have any creativity. As he spoke, he reached out his chubby hands and quickly took the gold coin. Klein smiled, stood up, and vanished. Just like that. 48 people? Holy shit, man. I didn't even realize that. There's a lot of you guys here. Oh my goodness. Thank you, man. Going big brain? I am not big brain today. I'll be honest, man. My brain, I think it's shut. My brain was mostly shut down in the first half. I was like, oh my god. But now that I only have now I can only faintly hear the music. I think I'm okay. Like, I can mostly just hear my thoughts. Even though it's very kind of hard to follow all the revivals and inner layers and complexities going on, yes, once I felt lighter, I was able to think, long story short. But oh my goodness, man, a lot is going down. Chapter 1371. Sorry, I got a little too excited. We went a chapter ahead. Who are allies and who are foes? Good question. Bayam inside the Church of the Sea God. After Mass, Olger Wilson returned to his room and saw a figure appear by the window. It was Gerben Spur in a top hat and trench coat. Without waiting for Olger to speak, Klein took 2 steps forward and solemnly said, I have come under Mr. Fool's orders. He habitually acted as the intendant of mysteries. Olger immediately lowered his head and pressed his right hand to his left chest. Praised Mr. Fool. Klein nodded slightly and took out... Oh, my voice. Klein nodded slightly and took out an item from the junk pile of Safari Castle. Alger immediately reflected a short scepter made of bones. The tip of the scepter was embedded with a tiny blue gems. A small number music changed to the Hollow Knight one from before. A small number of them were dyed black and a small... Wait. The tip of the scepter was embedded with tiny blue gems. A small number of them were dyed black and a small number was covered in the light of dawn. Around it were countless pure points of light and the sounds of illusionary prayers emitted from it, stacked and holy. Alger's eyes widened as he couldn't help but reveal a hint of greed. As a sequence 4 demigod of the Sailor Pathway, he was extremely certain that the white bone scepter before him was a symbol of the sea god's identity, level, and strength. As he endured the slight dizziness from the prayers, he cast his gaze at the world Grimsborough, waiting for the deity's attendant to speak. Klein raised the sea scepter with one hand and said with a solemn expression, "This is Mr. Fool's gift and a sign of trust, as well as reward for protecting a large number of believers. No matter what happens in the future, you are to keep following Mr. Fool's instructions and do your best to complete the mission he gives." Alger skillfully sensed a hidden message. He suspected that Mr. Fool would encounter something in the future, causing him to suffer injuries or enter a nadir state. As the thought that he had already left the Church of the Storms had no way out, Alger pressed his right hand to his left chest and replied loudly, "My faith lies only with Mr. Fool." Upon seeing this, Klein secretly nodded before repeating what he had said to Miss Justice and Misjudgment. This made Alger heave a sigh of relief. After all, knowing what might happen in the future was better than not knowing at... I'm sorry. Who are allies and who are foes? Are we talking about the Terror Club or what the fuck are we talking about? Upon seeing this, Klein secretly nodded before repeating what he had said to Miss Justice and Misjudgment. This made Alger heave a sigh of relief. After all, knowing what might happen in the future was better than not knowing anything. Without hesitation, he repeated his words in a serious tone. Klein handed the Sea God scepter to him. "You should get used to this sealed artifact and the daily life of the Sea God. Once you finish digesting the cataclysmic interior potion, use it to concoct the potion. The prior acting will reduce the difficulty of advancing." Oh my god. This is like Klein. This is basically Klein saying his goodbyes. He's helping everybody get ready for his final advancements when he's no longer here. That's what's happening. Because he's not going to be here for that. In fact, Klein could now remove the... Wait, I skipped a sentence. "You should get used to this sealed artifact in the daily life of the Sea God. Once you finish digesting the cataclysmic interior potion, use it to concoct the potion. The prior acting will reduce the difficulty of advancing." In fact, Klein could now remove the grafting and transfer the concept of the Sea God, which was directed at him and Safari Castle, to Alger, allowing him to directly become half a Sea God. It would allow him to better adapt to his identity and become active in advance. However, considering how he was about to accommodate the Fool's uniqueness, he needed sufficient anchors to balance the consciousness of the celestial worthy... He needed sufficient anchors to balance the consciousness of the celestial worthy awakening. He couldn't be missing Sea God's believers. Klein decided to wait until his condition had stabilized before completely transferring everything that was related to Sea God. Currently, Alger was an attendant more suitable to wield the authority, helping the deity listen to respond to prayer without enjoying the corresponding anchors and identity. The Sea God Scepter's owner was still Klein, as everything still pointed at him. This was a miraculous use of grafting. Alger suppressed his excitement and joy as he entered Grimsborough sincerely and received the Sea God Scepter. Then he deliberated and asked, "What negative effects does this sealed artifact have?" Mr. Fool has already applied certain seals to it. Its negative effects of the Sea God have been greatly reduced. Klein simply said, "It will only make the wielder more irritable and cause the spirit to be in a certain state of chaos. In addition, it will drain the blood of surrounding creatures every month. You can fly to the sea or an uninhabited island ahead of time." That's still manageable. I forget he can fly. That's still manageable. Alger secretly heaved a sigh of relief before asking what beyond power the scepter had. After Klein briefly described it, he vanished in the ancient palace above the great fog. After finishing additional preparations, Klein sat on the fool's chair and conjured a piece of goatskin and a dark red fountain pen. He began analyzing the possible developments on the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range when he faced the Antigonus family ancestor. We're gonna fucking go up against him. If everything goes smoothly and I enter the final stage of accommodating the full uniqueness, the goddess will definitely have to remove the concealment. This is because this is the only way to allow the region to interact with reality, allowing fate to connect, thus achieving the effect of... Oh, I was like, why? Thus achieving the fate of fooling fate. I forgot the whole premise was we need to fool fate. From Mr. Dor's apotheosis ritual, the commotion caused by accommodating your uniqueness is definitely not trivial. Once it's not concealed, this matter will definitely be detected by other deities. Furthermore, those who are concerned about this matter must have been watching the main peak of Hornicus mountain range recently. Once there are any changes, they will immediately know. In such a situation, there's no doubt that there will be interference, destruction, assistance, and support. It's very important to find out where foes and allies are. Otherwise, there's no way to make targeted preparations. The goddess is definitely on my side. A little too confident, brother. The goddess is definitely on my side. If she were an enemy, I would have been concealed countless times. It's impossible for me to grow to this level. To put it simply, she had many opportunities to seal me out. Furthermore, she could sell it at a very good price previously. Furthermore, to her, it wouldn't affect her ability to support who becomes the Lord of the Mysteries. That's why she can make a decision based on her preferences. Adam is currently unable to bypass the seal and obtain the river of eternal darkness. The one who do not wish for Amon to become the Lord of the Mysteries, the most are Eternal Blazing Sun, Lord of the Storms, and God of Knowledge and Wisdom. Once someone attempts to destroy my ritual and accommodate the fool's uniqueness, they will definitely help me, and I'm sorry. Once someone attempts to destroy my ritual, i.e. Amon, and attempt to accommodate the fool's uniqueness, so Amon and Adam, they would definitely help me, and I'm sorry, are we going to get a battle? Are we going to get a god battle? They would definitely help me and directly provide help. Apart from these 4 true deities, the remaining sequence zeros are... Oh shit, there's a lot going on right here. The remaining sequence zeros are Visionary Adam and the true creator are Amon's father. The probability of helping him is definitely higher than them being on sidelines. Earth Mother has placed a bet on me through Emlyn, but it's not necessarily the case that she will definitely help me at the critical moment. To her, waiting patiently for the outcome, so she's going to pick who's the better likely, right? To her, waiting patiently for the outcome when there were no interests at play is the best choice. The primordial demonesque condition is odd. It's possible for her to make a choice. The attitude of the god of steam machinery is ambiguous. It's more likely for him to remain neutral or privately make a deal with Amon and Adam. I don't have any chips to move him. Other than these true deities, there are some uncommon sequence zeros with consciousness and existence that are nearly at sequence zero. The Lord of the Abyss, also known as Dark Side of the Universe, is suspected to have been invaded by the Mother Tree of Desire. He would occasionally respond to the prayers of blood, sanctify sect. It has been a long time since he exerted any influence on the real world. He's been waiting in the abyss, biding his time. Likewise, the Chain God is in a similar situation. What they will do would only depend on the Mother Tree of Desire's thoughts, and to the outer deities, delaying the birth of the Lord of the Mysteries should be a consensus. Under such circumstances, stopping me from being able to... I'm sorry, they're gonna come in and stop? I don't know who are our foes and friends right now. Klein is going through everything, but there can be a betrayal at any moment. Under such a circumstance, stopping me from being able to accommodate the fool's uniqueness will only cause me to be at an absolute disadvantage, and in competition with Amon, allowing the competition to quickly determine a winner. The most plausible strategy of Mother Tree of Desire is a tactic consent. She might even help me to accommodate the fool's uniqueness, preventing the scale between me and Amon from tilting. After that, she will repeatedly destroy our inclinations and attempt to converge, delaying the birth of the Lord of the Mysteries to the apocalypse. Like, at this point, I wouldn't even doubt if a GOO, if there's like a good GOO, that's a double agent, right? That's on our side, but he's like biding time as well with the evil GOOs. Like, I wouldn't doubt there's like one good GOO amongst the other group of bad GOOs. They're gonna like try and help us out. Like, I wouldn't even doubt if that happens. The Red Angel Evil Spirit definitely hasn't recovered to the level where he can be involved in such matters. The Hidden Sage is very mysterious, making it difficult to guess his thoughts, but he should know that I am hostile towards him. At this point in analysis, Klein made a conclusion. Why will they help us? I'm not saying they, I'm saying one. Maybe one became a GOO in order to protect us. I don't know, like maybe there was one Earthling that became a GOO for the greatness of Earth, right? And then he or she became like our protector. I don't know. I'm fanficking over here. At this point in the analysis, Klein made a conclusion. I have come up with a conclusion. Allies, the Evernight Goddess, Lord of the Storms, Eternal Blazing Sun, and God of Knowledge and Wisdom. Check. Foes: Visionary Adam, True Creator, and Mr. Error Amon. Neutral with tendencies to support me: Earth Mother, Dark Side of the Universe, and Chain God. Neutral with tendencies to support Amon. I completely forgot about the Hidden Sage. Neutral and ambiguous attitudes. Fucking shit, he is good at this. My man has like 3-4 layers to neutral. Neutral and ambiguous attitudes. Primordial Demoness, God of Steam and Machinery. Yes, I'll ignore how far Adam and the True Creator have fused. I'll consider the worst case scenario. I'll treat them as the ancient sun god and treat them as the dual pathway sequence 0 true god. The goddess has a uniqueness of the Twilight Giant and the Death. Although she hasn't accommodated them, she has some level of control of them, using the bird-shaped golden accessory as a medium. Even if she can't compare to the ancient sun god, she can definitely stall him. I'll also consider Amon as a dual pathway sequence 0 true god. At least 2 of the Lords of Storms trios have been diverted to have a chance to fend him off. From the surface, I still hold a certain advantage. Klein looked at the constant listening on the piece of paper as he thought silently. However, disadvantage didn't consider the neutral factions. Klein tapped the edge of the Lamal table and considered the worst situation. The Primordial Demoness, Hidden Sage, and God of Steam Machinery might all choose to help Amon based on their own secret dealings of their morality. I can see that happening. This way, even if Earth Mother participated in the battle, Klein's side would be at a disadvantage. The God of Steam and Machinery, yo, we just throw in Benson and Melissa and we even out the odds. Imagine they're like high primordial GOs this whole time. They'll be in there and they'll protect us. Or fucking Susie can take them all on. This way, even if Earth Mother participated in the battle, Klein's side would still be at a disadvantage. The God of Steam and Machinery and the other god from the omnipotent and omniscient pathways would cancel out each other. The Primordial Demoness would hold back the Earth Mother, who had just taken back the uniquenesses of the moon. Oh my god. The Hidden Sage would face the universe dark. The Hidden Sage would face the universe's dark side and Chain God, which were controlled by the Mother Tree of Desire. The powers of the outer deities could sneak into the world were extremely limited. This gave the Hidden Sage a likely advantage. Furthermore, this constellation was a calculation based on the ideal conditions. In reality, under the chaotic situation, Amon, who was in charge of the air authority, could play many tricks. It was possible that he would be able to find weaknesses in an instant and bypass the obstacles, causing Klein's ritual to fail and make him lose control on the spot. In addition, some details who supported Klein on the surface might turn to help Amon due to the reasoning he wasn't aware. As for the sealed artifact that could change the power balance between the deities, Klein didn't know much about them and wasn't able to make an analysis. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I fleeced. Definition? Fleeced? We take it? Of a sheep or goat having a woolly covering, or of a garment lined with a soft, warm fabric with a texture fleeced, okay? When I fleeced the Mother Tree of Desire, yes, I have to make some preparations for the worst case scenario to prevent things from developing in that direction. Klein disappeared the paper and fountain pen in front of him and cast his gaze at a particular prayer of light. His figure vanished from Sephiric Castle and appeared on Bernadette's dawn. Bro, wrong definition? Bro, what do you mean? That's the definition it just gave me. I'm like, dog. Bro, I'm scared to read the finale. I'm gonna be so confused, bro. I'm gonna have to read so fucking slow. I'm gonna have to read the slowest I've ever read, bro. Otherwise, I am not gonna understand what the fuck is going on. There are so many deities at play right now that we just don't know what they're gonna do. And if I am not at 100%, I am not gonna be able to follow this. Tricked or cheated, fleeced. Oh, thank you. Why the fuck? You gave me the wrong definition. Tricked or cheated, thank you. He's saying he's scamming Mother Chazar. Okay. I'm like, why are we talking about sheep wool? Like, what the fuck is this Google definition? Sheep wool? All right. One more chapter for today. Last chapter, brothers and sisters. Today, we'll be reading chapter 1372. Called The Other Usage of Magic Wishing. I'm sorry. There's another usage of Magic Wishing Lamp. Queen Mystic Bernadette seemed to have a sense of foreboding when she saw German Sparrow's arrival. Without any surprise, she put down the ancient scroll in her hand and cast her gaze at the visitor at the door. Klein didn't stand on ceremony and said directly, "I wish to borrow the magic wishing lamp for a day." Bernadette nodded gently and raised her hand to pick up the magic wishing lamp beside her. Her invisible servant immediately held the unique lamp and brought it to Klein. Klein took it and said in a deep voice, "Thank you." Bernadette didn't make any requests. It was as though she was afraid that she would end up having accumulated an additional wish and dying a strange death. She believed that Mr. Fu would be able to resolve this problem because the existence had displayed this ability last time. In the next second, Klein, who had transformed into German Sparrow, vanished from Dawn and returned to Safari Castle. When he placed the magic wishing lamp on a table in front of him, he immediately saw the candle wick light up, emitting a sticky light that formed a distorted, blurry, golden figure. "You have fulfilled your promise yet, so I won't fulfill your wishes according to your will again," Genie said with a majestic and dignified voice. "You should know that the current owner of this lamp is Roselle's daughter. The first wish you made her was to place her accumulated wishes that could allow her to suffer a backlash at the level above the sequences on you. At this time, I won't permit you to transfer her wishes onto yourself." When Klein had used the magic wishing lamp to escape, he hadn't changed the ownership of this grade 0 artifact. It still belonged to Bernadette, and its wielder was still Queen Mystic. Therefore, his wish would simultaneously be accumulated on himself and Bernadette. At this time, his first wish was to transfer the 2 wishes that Bernadette had previously made under his name. This cleared Bernadette's accumulated wishes, and he was burned with 2 wishes. But at the same time, the first wish was also accumulated. Therefore, after it was fulfilled, Bernadette's count became 1 and Klein was number 3. Following that, Klein made a second wish. It would be undoubtedly be counted towards both Bernadette and him. Finally, Bernadette's wish count was 2 without exceeding the critical point, while Klein reached 4. 4 wishes. Without any surprises, he encountered the backlash from the rules that were at the level of an outer deity. He died on the spot in Adam's corpse cathedral and successfully escaped by dying. Under the premise that Klein made another wish, it would make Bernadette's wish count reach 3, causing her to unavoidably suffer something terrifying. Oh. Yeah, we'll be resuming Shadow Slave once we're done with him. Of course, he could also mimic the first wish he did previously, transferring Bernadette's wish count onto himself and spending 1 chance at revival. However, the genie had already made it clear that he would distort any similar wishes, allowing the wish to be realized in a way that Klein didn't wish to see. Sigh, it's also because I was in a rush to the last time and Roselle was affected by the primordial moon. So the wish we came up with was definitely flawed. At that time, I should have added a description that made the first wish only count under my name. Or perhaps I should have added another wish between the first and second one to transfer the ownership of the magic wishing lamp. There are so many complexities to these wishes. After all, my death would result in the ownership being cleared and the magic wishing lamp would return to its wielder. As Klein said inwardly, he smiled at Genie. You should be no stranger to the tampering and reassembly. With your level and current state at this lamp, I can now rely on Safari Castle to graft its ownership. You can graft the ownership from Bernadette onto me. Or perhaps we can use a different method and directly use theft. Genie, blurry golden figure, fell silent. After a few seconds, he said, although you aren't as cunning as him, you're just as shameless. However, this is of no use. After you accumulate your wishes and die, the ownership of this lamp will still return to Roselle's daughter, and I will distort the rules and place your wish count on her. Also, I said earlier that before you fulfill your promise, I won't fulfill your wish normally again. Klein maintained his smile. I once heard a story regarding investors. When a company is in trouble, the ones who are more willing to provide aid will definitely be the original investors, although they had already paid a lot. If they don't continue investing, they might not be able to recoup the investments and end up losing all their money. Of course, if they could use other means to retrieve their own share or exchange the investment of greater benefit, it would be another story. Which type do you think you are? Genie stared at Klein, who was sitting in the full seat, and laughed. After you gain a deeper grasp of Safari Castle, you also seem to have attained the elegance of a swindler. However, unless you help me remove the seal now, it will be difficult for me to affect the matters at the level of a sequence 0. At most, you will encounter a backlash from above the sequences and laws and die again, but we don't have any more revives. However, this won't be of any help to what you wish to do now. Death means failure. Furthermore, you should know very well that losing control during your advancement will affect all your avatars. is not something that can be avoided by cutting off all connections. Klein smiled and nodded. Indeed, I haven't thought of a wish yet. I'm just making preparations. With that said, he looked at the magic wishing lamp. Actually, this lamp has another use that can affect the matters at sequence 0. I heard that a true god once attempted to destroy this lamp, but failed in the end. Indeed, how can a lamp that can seal an outer deity be so easily damaged? It definitely has the power of the Lord of the Mysteries or Sephira Castle. As he spoke, the smile on Klein's face gradually became obvious. It's such a waste not to use something as sturdy as this as a shield. Genie fell silent for a long time. After such a friendly exchange, Klein and Genie exchanged their views. The fact that both of them were connected by fate had allowed them to come up with a preliminary agreement. Then Klein placed the magic wishing lamp into his pocket, prepared to use it at any time. After completing all this, he cast his gaze at the fragments of light related to the Hornicus mountain range in the fog of history. Yo, what's up, dude? He was almost done with his preparations. Next, he would create another avatar and steal the undigested attendant of mystery beyond her characteristics from himself. Then he could face the ancestor of Antigonus' family. And this might very well trigger a divine battle. To be frank, Klein didn't wish for that to happen. This was because a war of deities would likely have a negative impact on the real world. Yeah, we should avoid this. Back when the Rose Redemption stopped the resurrection of the primordial one. Oh my, wait. Memory here. Hold up. Back when the Rose Redemption stopped the resurrection of the primordial one in the divine battle to assassinate the ancient sun god, which involved the help of Dark Angel Sasir, it directly brought about a disaster that affected the entire eastern continent. This caused more than 99% of living creatures there to die, making large swaths of terrain that resembled the abyss. The War of the Four Emperors and the Pale Disaster had nearly destroyed the northern continent, causing countless people to die and mutate. This caused the mountains to turn into lakes, valleys into peaks, rivers changing paths, and the land collapsed and the ocean to go berserk. Yo, what the fuck is gonna happen now? The battle between the Evernight Goddess and the God of Combat happened in the astral world. It happened in the Evernight Goddess's divine kingdom, and it was relatively brief. Therefore, it had the least impact on the real world. However, before that, the world war that exceeded a year had drained the blood and tears of countless people. If it was possible, Klein was actually willing to give up on Sephira Castle and live on a what? Klein was actually willing to give up on Sephira Castle and live on as a Sequence 1 or even a Sequence 2 angel. The matter would then develop into the most peaceful way. No, we go all out. However, along the way, there were already too many existences who provided him with kindness, help, and faith. At this moment, if Klein were to give up, he would put them in danger too. Yeah, that makes sense. This wasn't being kind, but selfish. From time immemorial, which successful person didn't bear the fates of many people? If he gave up, what about the rest? The members of the Terror Club, the full believers of the City of Silver and the Moon City, Azik Eggers, Renette Tanker, Will Ossitan, various faces quickly flashed across Klein's mind. Finally, oh my god, it's like life is flashing before him. Finally, he let out a long sigh. If Amon could be trusted, which he can't, it wasn't that Klein couldn't hand over all of this to him. However, this god of the seed had always been reckless. Even his believers were also himself. If Klein were to give up just like that, why are you even thinking of giving up? If Klein were to give up just like that, notwithstanding his own safety, the people or demigods he had just thought of might be caught by the enemies or directly end up wearing a monocle on their right eye. Among them, Will Ossitan and the full believers were in the most danger. Believe in the might of the deities, but do not trust their benevolence. This was Klein's decision. When facing the Evernight Goddess, he had used the Lords of Storms and company as an example. This was telling her that he wouldn't let her down after all the help she had given. This was the existence that had bet the most on him. If Klein were to give up, the Evernight Goddess might have to pay a greater price to obtain the River of Eternal Darkness. She might even not be able to obtain it forever. This was because after the appearance of the two pillars, the Lord of the Mysteries and the God Almighty, it meant that the threat from the outer deities would be reduced to its lowest level. There wouldn't be any need for additional Great Old Ones to appear. Few, I'll later use Sephira Castle to graft the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range to the astral world. This can prevent the war of deities from bringing any harm to the real world and the greatest extent. It can also allow the deities who are guarding the cracking barrier to unleash their full strength. After all, most of my supports are Orthodox deities. Most of my supporters are Orthodox deities. Klein's mind raced as he came up with a solution. He then snapped his fingers and used Sephira Castle to create an avatar to stand beside him. Next weekend is it, man. We're done next weekend. It is coming to an end. Next weekend is the finale, my friends. Next weekend is the finale. I think what I will do sometime during the weekday, we're gonna go through everything. We're gonna go through the whole lore Discord. We're gonna go through all the Discord management. We're gonna go through everything. We're gonna go through everything, just and like recap everything and see what I can remember. Because 1373 next week is called Facing. I'm sorry. How many chapters do I have left? Hold up. I don't even know what's my timestamp. Too much is going on. There are too many pieces of this pie right now, and I cannot keep track of everything. Too much is going on right now. Okay. So we are at 73. You remember the first word of the fucking book? Ow, fucking no. The first chapter was called Crimson. So I'm over here thinking the last chapter is going to be called Moon, right? I feel like that'd be a very full circle, a very circle of inevitability, right? Crimson, Moon, right? But okay, these are the timestamps. We are at 73. Saturday we read 1373 to 1380. And then Sunday we read 1381 through 1394. Holy shit. And then he has a side story split up right here, but that's it. We're done in 2 fucking streams, guys. And it's GG. Now tell me this unknown. Cuttlefish with Dad Zik, no. First Bethel with the Zik, no. Wait. You guys are talking about, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Let me quickly look at the artwork. If there's any artwork. So much, man. Oh, I'm already crying. Flashbang. Wait, wrong scene. You guys can't see me. Let's go to chat. Nope, wrong scene. There you go. Oh, is this when she looked at the empty seat? Oh, I'm gonna cry already. Oh, I'm crying already. Instant tears, man. I may be lost as fuck, man, but you know what? You will get that emotional reaction from me when it matters the most. Oh, that was beautiful, dude. That was such a good moment. Ah, man. Do we have to do this conversation again? Next stream, you finish at 81. That much better? That's much better? Yeah. There's one before this, I think. I want Klein to meet Brody once again. And all in due time. Audrey and Gurman. I can see this ship. I see the ship. I see the chemistry. I see it. I see it. I get it. I get it. And when he fucking dies and goes into sleep, because the game is canon, that's why Audrey refers to the Fool as maybe it's just a story of a person, right? Because she found out he, lowercase he, was capital case he. But I see the ship. I get it. I see it. Leo Klein. I can't believe I tweeted that by accident in Chinese. I see the world needs justice. Close swapped. Yo, Audrey looked kind of dripped out though. I'm not gonna lie, Klein looks kind of dripped out right here. Audrey looks fucking dripped out. I think Audrey can rock this fucking outfit. Holy shit, dude. I see it. The fic I'm reading right now has done still 11 Dally pregnant. Oh man, that should be real. Is that from Logan? I probably shouldn't show that on screen in case it gets copyrighted. Danger? I don't even know what this bitch's main goal is now. I don't get it. This dude is still... Him and Adam are still fucking enigmas. Gurman and the Garden of Eden. Damn. Question. Can I use this as a thumbnail? Or is this too much? Don't worry. The journey is going to continue. We got all the Dunkle reactions. All the Dunkle reactions are coming up. We're going to do, like, we're still going to be doing LOTM content, right? But the read-through, you can, I think, I'm going to fucking use it. I'm using it. I'm using this as a thumbnail. I'm using this as a thumbnail. I don't know if it's a spoiler, but I'm using it. We getting Tristan season 2. We fuck. Oh man, gonna be a good season. Oh man, all I know is season 2. Don't go. Gonna be a good season, man. Gonna be a good lot, Tristy. It's gonna be a good season, brothers and sisters. Damn. Where's the dragon? Oh, this is a really cool abstract drawing. This is cool as fuck. And these are like the eyes. Dalian done getting freaky. Is this when she's like, I just want to tie him up? My art got skipped. Wait, did I skip your art? I'm sorry. Did I skip it? No, right? Oh, this is cute. Art by who? Art by Left Break 123. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Damn, man. I am so excited. Easy maybe should read another novel before COI. I mean, I'm going to be binge reading a lot of manhwa. I'm going to be doing that. Yeah, and there are some books I'm going to be reading to myself, like, off screen. Like, right now I'm reading Mistborn. I'm reading that to myself. And I had fun. I just uploading a 10-minute video of my impressions. But I'm using this as thumbnail. I don't know if it's going to be a spoiler, but I guess we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll find out when it goes up. The art that Louvian put? Where? Where? Which one did I skip? Oh, shit. I'm blind as fuck. This one? Art made a couple months ago, inspired by Klein revisiting Utopia after Volume 7 ending incident. Not technically not technically canon. I just wanted to draw Merlin. You drew this? Did you draw this? You drew this? Oh shit, what the fuck? Look, bro, this is amazing. What the fuck? Really? Also in oh, you even wrote this shit at Lowanez. Welcome to Utopia. It'll look desaturated in the small image view, then we'll actually use full screen image. No, look good, dude. Wow. Welcome to Utopia, dude. Oh, you're a goat. Yeah, definitely the fucking goat, bro. You should be doing canon pictures too now. You should be doing canon pictures now. You should be drawing pictures from every volume now, bro. Ooh, this is good. You're good, bro. Man, you better draw than me. I gotta show you guys some of my old art, man. That's crazy. He's definitely on the drawing pathway. All right, man. That was exciting. That was amazing. Spread the word, brothers and sisters. Next week, we are done. Next week, we are free from the 1,400 plus chapter series. Damn, that's crazy. We've read 1,300 plus chapters right now. We have an amazing fucking community, by the way. You guys are the fucking goat, man. This is crazy. I never thought so many people would be fucking... Yeah, it does feel a bit unreal. I never thought so many people would be joining in all of a sudden. That's crazy. All right, man. Well, then I know there's 1,000 chapters. I'm barely halfway. That's the crazy part, man. I'm barely fucking halfway. Oh, my God. It's going to be so long. It's okay. COY ain't even going to have a trailer for another 10 years. I have until 2035 to finish COI. Don't worry, COI Volume 5 probably my favorite. It's right. I'll be honest. I think we're just gonna jump straight into COI, but it's like I won't be covering it as often right off the bat. It's gonna be like a weekly thing. Just read rather than just taking a break from reading. I think we'll just jump into it, but we'll be slow about it. Yeah, I think we'll just be slow about it. Now the thing is, I don't know about the side stories. I know they supposedly they go quicker, so we'll find out. We'll see what we'll do once we get to that point. That being said, though, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys next weekend for the finale of LOTM. Saturday and Sunday, okay? I'll have the stream set up sometime during the week, and we'll make an announcement. Bye, take care of LA. I know, man. We'll go give her a bath, make sure she's a-okay. But later, guys. Peace. Have an amazing day.